Just go. We'll work it out. If I can read. Good evening, everyone. I call this meeting of the Church-Cibolo Universal City Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Dee Dee, can we have a roll call at this time, please?
All board members are present.
Okay. You want to do the recognition first? Yep. Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gibson here for quick recognition.
Yeah, thank you, President Inman and guests. Tonight we have Alani Parker, fourth grader at Pascal Elementary School, and Francisca, easy for you to say, Frankie, let's just go with her nickname, Frankie Medici, a fifth grader at Slaughter Intermediate School. And we're honored for them to be here joining us tonight to serve as our student reps and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll let the principals take it from here.
Good evening, members of the board, President Inman, and Superintendent Dr. Gibson. I am Allison Miller, the principal at Pascal Elementary School. I am honored to introduce to you tonight Alani Parker. She is a fourth grader who has been at Pascal since kindergarten. She is a member of our ORF and show choir ensemble, and she has also achieved A honor roll every year since being at Pascal. And she also represented Miss Jackson last year at our third grade wax museum. Her favorite subject is math, but she also enjoys reading biographies. She recently read the biography about Princess Diana. She enjoys watching TV shows such as Survivor and This Is Us with her family. She is joined by her parents tonight, Henry and Shannon Parker, both of them retired chiefs from the United States Air Force. If you will both please stand to be recognized. Thank you for being here, and I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Ross to introduce her students.
Good evening, members of the board, President Inman and Superintendent Dr. Gibson. I'm Yvette Ross, the principal of Slaughter Intermediate, and I would like to introduce to you all Francesca Medici, who's in fifth grade. Frankie serves as this year's vice president to our Slaughter Student Council, a recognized honor council. Her favorite subject is English Language Arts, and in her free time, she enjoys reading, drawing, and writing rap music. Frankie is also the eldest of 5 children, a great big sister, a leader, and a proud military child. She is joined by her mother, Jessica Medici, an educator for SCUC, her father, Christopher Medici, an active duty Army JAG Corps station at Fort Sam. Parents, please stand to be recognized. Frankie will also be leading us in our pledges this evening.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much, students. This time I just want to welcome everyone to our Board of Trustees meeting. Please raise your hand if this is the first meeting you've ever attended. Sure, a few. Okay. Just real briefly, I just want to let you know that this is your elected Board of Trustees up here. We're all volunteers. We're here to serve the district. The gentleman to my left, your right, is Superintendent Dr. Gibson. So basically the CEO here of the district. All of these folks down here in front, these are our upper level administrators. We're all here to serve, so if you guys have any issues or questions about the district, I suggest that you first visit with either your principals or these folks down here. If you have any other bigger concerns, the Board of Trustees would be more than happy to help you out. Tonight we just have a whole series of issues that we're going to address. We'll go through a few things here and have some recognitions, and then we'll take a natural break, and if at that time you don't want to stay around for the exciting stuff, you're more than welcome to leave at that point. So, okay? All right, this time we'll start off with the Vice President's recitation of the district's mission, vision, values, and priorities. Mr. Westbrook.
Our mission statement, Church-Cibolo Universal City Independent School District provides a safe, secure, and challenging learning environment through the responsible use of all resources to afford opportunities for all students to realize their individual potential and to become responsible and productive members of society. Our vision is to prepare every student to be a productive citizen. Our values are leadership, character, commitment, service, and learning.
Okay. Then we have the board recitation of the district's belief statements. You guys good to go? Mr. Carrera.
We believe all students have the capacity to learn and be successful. We believe a safe, secure environment is paramount to learning.
We believe living our core values of leadership, character, commitment, service, and learning result in the ability to set and achieve lifelong goals, and we believe quality instruction addresses the individual needs of the students.
We believe engaging, interactive, and authentic teaching creates empowered, active learners prepared for our changing world. We believe embracing technology as a relevant tool enhances learning in and beyond the classroom.
We believe in a professional learning community culture that allows time to collaborate and share best practices in order to improve continually.
We believe good communication is critical to success. We believe lifelong learning enriches staff through professional development.
We believe measures of our success go beyond standardized testing, and we believe public education is defined by the local community with limited state involvement.
All right, thank you very much, trustees. At this time, we'll continue with recognition items. The first item is recognition of high school student representatives for the month of November 2017. Dr. Gibson.
Thank you, President Inman, and guests tonight. We're honored to have Zaria Oates, a 12th grader at Clemens High School, and Caitlin Horton, an 11th grader at Steele High School, representing our two traditional high schools as our student of the month. So students, will have you join your principals at the podium and for a further introduction, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Dr. Gibson, President Inman, and members of the board. I'm Julia McClellan, Assistant Principal at Samuel Clemens High School, and I am pleased to be here with you this evening to introduce the Clemens November Student of the Month, Zaria Oates. Zaria is joined by both her parents, Command Sergeant Major Thomas Oates and Miss Marion Oates, and her brother Isaiah. If you could please stand. Zaria is a senior at Clemens High School and has been in our district for the past 2 years. Zaria is here tonight as the Student Council President, so she is also escorted tonight by our Student Council sponsor, Mr. James Barber. Please stand. As you can see by introductions, Zaria belongs to a military family, as many of us and our students do as well. In just the 2 short years Zaria has been here after her father's most recent transfer from Oklahoma, she has not only become our Student Council President, she also holds the title of Vice President of our student-to-student organization. This organization helps new students to our district, like Zaria, transition as smoothly as possible to our campus culture and into our Buff Strong family. Zaria also holds the secretary position of our Meet in the Middle Club. Zaria has been an active volunteer in many of the communities that she has lived in. She currently and frequently babysits children of other military families during military balls, change of command, and other military events. In July 2016, while volunteering at the Reynolds Army Community Hospital in the maternal care unit, Zaria was able to deliver not just 1, but 2 infants during her shift. As if all of this is not enough, Zaria is also in the top 20% of the 2018 graduating class. She has a 97.8 GPA, and she holds a first degree level 4 black belt in Taekwondo. Exactly. Zaria plans on attending a 4-year university and earning a doctorate in leadership or journalism. Regardless of what she decides to pursue, Zaria will continue to be a great leader in either field of study. It is my honor to introduce the Samuel Clemens Student Council President and future leader, Zaria Oates.
Good evening, Dr. Gibson, President Inman, and members of the board. My name is Zaria Oates, and I am a senior at Samuel Clemens High School and the Student Council President. It is an honor to be able to speak with you tonight regarding how Student Council has impacted my leadership skills. In Student Council, we do a lot of community and school activities. Our Student Council provides numerous events for our members to get volunteer hours while still having fun. My dad is active duty military, therefore this is my second year in the SCUC school district. However, this school district has already made an enormous impact on my life. In the 11 years prior to my junior year, I lived in Oklahoma, Kansas, and North Carolina. Last year, as a junior, was the first time I ever attended a student council meeting. At first, I just sat in the meetings and followed the crowd, but I quickly became heavily involved with a multitude of activities. I loved planning homecoming and decorating the gym the morning of the dance. I felt that being able to tell people, hey, I helped put this together, was really fulfilling. Our student council's main event during the fall semester is always homecoming, but this year I really wanted to expand on that. During our student council summer camp at Southwestern University, the other officers and I discussed how we could do something special for our school's 50th anniversary. It wasn't until the school year actually began that we decided on having a fall festival. This would be the first fall festival Clements has ever had. Honestly, putting it together was stressful at first. Planning around other school events and timing was a challenge, but we all knew that it would be worth it. Our Samuel Clements High School first annual Fall Festival for the 50th anniversary of our school was held on Saturday, November 4th, and it was a success. We had the Games to You truck come out with bounce houses and video games. There were also many Clements clubs and organizations at our school that came out and helped. And some clubs brought games for the kids to play. The culinary students even brought the food truck out. We look forward to having our fall festival annually from now on. Student Council is also involved with the Randolph Area Christian Assistance Program, also known as RACAP, which delivers food to families in need over Thanksgiving and winter break. As an organization that is committed to serving our community, some of our service activities throughout the year are campus cleanups, movie nights for charity, energy and environment projects, Red Ribbon Week, Project Beautiful, and much more. All of the activities that we do in Student Council have prepared me for my future, in which I will attend a four-year university. After applying to 11 colleges, I have already been accepted to the University of North Texas, the University of Oklahoma, and the University of Mary Hardin Baylor, where I will major in leadership or journalism. With the leadership skills I have gained through Student Council, I want to run an organization that develops the teamwork and leadership skills among its employees. As a journalist, I aspire to report real news. I want to stand apart by not reporting what the public wants to hear, but report the facts and what the public needs to hear. I come from a family where education is a high priority. Both of my parents have earned their master's degree, and I strive to surpass their high achievements by earning a doctorate degree in either leadership or journalism. In all, I realize that the leadership skills that I have gained through Student Council will assist me in obtaining all of my future goals. I would like to thank the school board and Dr. Gibson for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of Samuel Clements High School and our Student Council. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Gibson, President Inman, and members of the board. At this time, I would like to introduce to you an amazing young leader, Ms. Caitlin Horton. Caitlin Horton is a junior at Steele High School and has been in the district for 3 years. She is heavily involved in the Cibolo Creek FFA chapter and has been an officer for the past 2 years. She is currently serving as the secretary this year. As an officer, she helps plan meetings and events in representing the Cibolo Creek FFA. Through FFA, Caitlin also competes on the Leadership Development Event and Career Development Event teams, participating in contests such as job interviews, creed speaking, range plant identification, wildlife, and prepared public speaking. Caitlin has advanced to the area competition the last 2 years in the prepared public speaking event and will be competing again at the 2018 Major Texas Stock Shows. In addition to being an officer and competitor, Caitlin also participates in the FFA livestock shows around the state with her Market Goat project and her newly added Market Steer project. These projects include the care and training of the animals as she prepares them for these highly competitive events. This past summer, Caitlin was an assistant herd leader at the Texas Brigade's Buckskin Brigade, which is a wildlife and leadership camp, and at the camp she was awarded the top scholarship of $2,500. Caitlin's plans after graduation are to attend either Texas Tech University or Texas A&M Kingsville, and she's going to study wildlife biology and veterinary medicine. She plans to become a wildlife rehabilitator. Tonight, she is represented by both parents, Ryan and Dawn Horton, and her brothers. Please stand to be recognized. And she is also represented by one of her many FFA advisors, Mr. Jared Longan. Please stand. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Miss Caitlin Horton.
Good evening. As Ms. Wagner said, my name is Caitlin Horton, and I've been a member of the Cibolo Creek FFA chapter for the past 3 years now. I've participated in many activities and events throughout the chapter, and I've also been given numerous opportunities and have gained many experiences through the FFA. For the past 2 years, I've been on the officer team of my FFA chapter. For the first year, I was parliamentarian, and the second year, or now, I'm currently serving as the secretary. I love getting to be on the officer team because I get to help with planning the meetings and building the agendas, and I love going to our school events such as the electives fair or the prep days because I get to help with recruitment and promoting agriculture, our agriculture classes in FFA. I participate on many LDE teams. LDEs are leadership development events which help our members better their public speaking and leadership skills. And I compete on job interview and creed speaking. And I compete on many CDE teams, which are career development events which help to prepare you for the future, careers that are possible in the agriculture field. And so I compete on wildlife and plant ID, which are personally my favorite parts of FFA because I get to broaden my knowledge on wildlife, which will help me for the future. I also have many SAE projects. SAE projects are agricultural related projects. For me, they're live animals. So I have goats right now, breeding does. For the past 2 years, I've had market wethers. This year, I decided to change directions and go to the breeding does. And I'm actually starting my own herd this year. My Mima bought me 5 does, and we bred 2 of them last year, and they had their babies this year, May and April. And so I'm raising the 2 does that we got out of them. And so I'm excited to see how they place this year. And then I'm also starting, this year I've decided to show a steer, and his name's Aston. And raising a steer is a lot different from raising goats. I thought goats were stubborn, but he's pretty stubborn. And yeah, so raising animals, it is a lot of hard work, and it's very time consuming, but you get a lot out of it, and so I'm excited to see how he does and how my goats do. I love raising goats, and I love that I get to start my own herd because I get to work with baby goats, and who doesn't like baby goats? And yeah, so raising an animal is a lot of responsibility, but it's taught me better time management, and I'm a lot more responsible from raising animals. I love being a member of the FFA. I've met so many great people and made so many friendships that will last a lifetime. FFA has allowed me to grow into the leader that I am today and helped me to develop the qualities that will help me in every aspect of my life. I love that I get to help Cibolo Creek FFA extend its membership and promote agriculture and leadership in the community. Thank you.
Next item is recognition of student achievement. Ms. Gracia?
Good evening, President Inman, Dr. Gibson, and members of the board. Tonight we're here to recognize SCUC students who have earned outstanding academic distinction by making a high score on the preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, or PSAT NMSQT. These tests measure critical reading ability, mathematics problem-solving ability, and writing ability rather than existing knowledge. The National Merit Scholarship Program was established in 1952 to recognize students from all over the country. Approximately 1.6 million juniors in 22,000 high schools participate, and the students that we were going to announce tonight were selected from the highest achievers across the nation. Students, parents, and friends, thank you for joining us tonight to recognize our SCUC students' academic excellence. Students, congratulations on your accomplishments and best of luck in your future endeavors. As I call your name, please come up to be recognized, then proceed around the dais to shake hands with our directors, school board members, and superintendent. Please stay up front after you have received your certificate so we can take a group photo. Approximately 16,000 graduating seniors out of nearly 1.6 million across the nation receive the semifinalist distinction each year. All of these students are eligible to compete for the 7,500 scholarships worth approximately $32 million. Only semifinalists advance to the final round to be considered for National Merit Finalist Awards. Finalists will be announced in the spring. Our National Merit semifinalists are from Clemens, Hannah Borland, and Manuel Morales. From Steele, Andrew Buskey. The next group of students scored in the top 50,000 nationwide and received letters of commendation in recognition of their outstanding academic promise and may be eligible for special scholarships provided by corporate and business sponsors. Our National Merit Commended Scholars are from Clemens, Jasmine Flepson, Julia Plant, Lauren Rodriguez, and from Steele, Hunter Damron. Unable to be here, Jacob Davis, Daniel Kraus, and Jonathan Voos. In addition to the National Merit Scholarship programs, the National Hispanic Recognition Program identifies nearly 5,000 out of 250,000 outstanding Hispanic Latino juniors who take the PSAT and MSQT. Colleges use this program to identify academically exceptional Hispanic Latino students. Our National Hispanic Scholar Recognition Program scholars are from Clemens, Manuel Morales, Olivia Ornelas, and unable to attend, Caroline Schilling and Amanda Tesco. Congratulations to all of you.
Oh, sorry. 1, 2, and 3.
All right, the next item on the agenda is for public comments. I'm gonna go ahead and just read off a little script here that we have for this. We only have 2 people signed up tonight, but just to make sure we all play by the same rules. In order to provide consistency and fairness to all individuals, public comments will be heard in accordance with Board Policy BED Local and procedures outlined in Administrative Regulation BED. Comments should be limited to topics such as policies, curriculum, and facilities. Any direct criticism of a specific employee will not be heard during public comments and should be considered separately as provided in board policy. In this context, individuals are cautioned to not identify any employee by name or by any combination of words or descriptions which could identify the employee to another individual. Public comments will be limited to those individuals who signed up to participate in the public comment portion of the meeting before the board meeting was called to order. No public comments shall exceed 5 minutes, and to ensure compliance with time limitations, Mr. Pivito, a yellow card will be held up by the board secretary at 4 minutes, and a red card will be held up at 5 minutes. If you have an issue that you would like to discuss with an administrative staff member, you can always complete the designated forms located on the tables at the back of the room and place it in the wooden box, and your concern and contact information will be forwarded to the appropriate staff member. So again, at this time we have 2 public comments, and I'll lead off with Misty Tran. Is that correct? Misty?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Misty Tran. I'm a senior at Clemens, and it's come to my concern that we don't have graduation cords, and it's something I strongly want, and most of my classmates as well, because throughout all 4 years of high school, we've worked very hard to pretty much achieve our goals, but sadly, the school and this district doesn't reward us, and it's really confusing why. Like, why can't we wear graduation cords? Like, I know that the blood drive, if you donate 6 times, you get a red cord saying that you've donated and saved lives. We're not allowed to wear that across the stage, and I don't know why. And you see, like, the junior and the senior, you've done so great, but you're not going to be rewarded at all. And it's really sad, and I really want people to get rewarded because they worked very hard. That's it.
All right, tell you what, just this isn't an agenda item, so we're not going to have a big discussion about it, but just for clarification, could you share with us a little bit more about what are cords and what do you, like for different programs, different achievements?
Okay, so cords, they're these long ribbons given to students who have like done really good achievements. Like for me, I'm in HOSA, and I can, they're HOSA, if you don't know what HOSA is, like the Health Occupations of America, you know, and their club, that's a club for people who want to be doctors and stuff, but you get a cord just for being in it. And Key Club, you get a cord for being in it, and Key Club is a community where you help out, but no one's gonna know we did all that if we didn't have those cords.
Okay.
They're just rewards.
All right, we appreciate you coming, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next person we have signed up to speak will be Dr. Irene Petrisky.
Good evening, President Inman, school board members, and Dr. Gibson. I'm here to talk about the agenda item, action item, related to the 2018-2019 group health insurance request action for allotment of $1.5 million tonight for the self-funding program. Looking at the agenda, it mentions that the board will review, possibly review, and take action in March of 2018. So I feel that requesting $1.5 million at this point is premature. Employees have not been given the particulars of the comparative programs, either full funding under the regular United Healthcare system or the partial self-funding. In lieu of what was mentioned also on the agenda is that it's going to take a written signature from each employee to participate in this. I believe allocation should not be made until every employee in the school district is given the specifics. I addressed the school board last month that the school district had participated in self-funding group insurance program under during Dr. Steele's tenure. On that one, it took one catastrophic event and it completely wiped out what self-funding was supposed to be saving for. Granted, under that program, there was no reinsurance, but employees at that time also had the choice of participating in the traditional insurance program. Those employees that participated in the traditional, although yes, it was more expensive, they came out ahead. Teachers were left, because of that catastrophic event, teachers were left to pay up thousands of dollars in their medical treatment. It also led to exodus of teachers to districts who had more traditional insurance programs. So we lost out on teachers because of that particular, especially those that participated in that program. And the word was, you don't want to work for a school district that doesn't have traditional insurance. That was close to 30 years ago, and there's a reason why it had not been implemented since. People remember that. Person that we have in our community was former school board member, veteran teacher. She still lives here, and she said, she gave me permission to let you know that she welcomes any board member that would like to contact her, and she would give you full information on what happened then. But most importantly, for the request right now, if you're not going to be reviewing this until March, why 1.5 million? Pretty much, to me, that gives the impression that central administration has already made up their mind on what program is already going to be selected. Until you give the employees history of what has happened in the past, what will be different this time. And remember, even with having reinsurance, what are the caps? What's the benefit structure? What's the premium structure? A good comparative analysis needs to be put before each employee before you allocate funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Petrisky. All right, next item we have on the agenda is for correspondence. We normally don't have something here, but I'm going to read off a letter that Dr. Gibson did receive, I guess, late last week, and this is in regard to the Sutherland Springs tragedy, and it's from the superintendent of Stockdale ISD. So I'll just read this for everyone's benefit. Words cannot express the gratitude that I have for the assistance that you have offered our community and school district. However, I would personally like to thank you and Church-Cibolo Universal City ISD on behalf of Stockdale ISD for your willingness to offer and execute resources to assist the students, faculty and staff, and community of Stockdale and Stockdale ISD in our time of need. It is this camaraderie that I find to be the backbone of recovery in tragic situations. I appreciate the timeliness of your response, and please know that your offerings have positively impacted the students, their families, community members, and faculty and staff of Stockdale and Stockdale ISD. We are forever grateful. So, that'd be important to read that. Any further comments about communications?
Yeah, and I'll just add that Ms. Gracia was kind of the chief point person on a Sunday night at 6 p.m. when you're, you know, hopefully relaxed and chilled out, and all of a sudden she's on the phone coordinating additional counselors to go to Stockdale. And they got it done, and they got it done fast. And, you know, I was watching BBC News during the week, and they didn't, I mentioned this to the staff today, but they didn't call us out by name, but they made sure to point out, and they specifically said Stockdale ISD has additional counselors to help students with grief this week, and the parents are much appreciated. So I couldn't help but smile a little bit that, you know, that effort, I guess, was recognized by an international news organization. So thank you, Ms. Gracia, and everyone else that had something to do with it, but you're the closest one I have to thank tonight. So I'm going to thank you for organizing all that and get the additional counselors there.
Thank you. And if I may add, I contacted them. They asked for a junior high counselor and a high school counselor. I contacted Alicia Edwards and Ruby Sanchez, and they said, what time do we need to be there? And they were there a day and a half. So we appreciate them very much.
Very good.
Yeah, I know, just being as close as we are to that community, we had folks here in the district who have relatives and whatnot that were affected. And Mr. Crew, you want to add anything?
We actually had one of our, on my wife's side, one of her family members was one of the ones that was actually shot there too. So
yeah, okay. And I know it's always good times like that. You know, it gives an opportunity for schools to always kind of rally together. I mean, whether it's the hurricanes or whatnot, and you see school districts all across the state really come together in those kind of moments. So that's a good thing. Yeah. Anything further on that? We good? Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is the public hearing on the Schools First Financial Accountability Rating System, and we'll have Ms. Maloney. Again, just for those members of the public that are here, this is a public hearing, so we're going to first have an overview of the rating system itself. And then if you have any comments or questions about the rating, you're more than welcome to make those at that time. Ms. Maloney. Yeah.
Thank you, President Inman, Dr. Gibson, members of the board, and members of the community. Tonight we'll be presenting our Schools First rating that the district received. We got our preliminary rating back in August and received our final reading last Friday or Thursday. So basically, first of all, what is Schools First? It's the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. We're in our 13th year where the state of Texas looks at the financial health of every school district. The primary goal of Schools First is to achieve quality performance in the management of the school district's financial resources. And that's a goal that's made more significant due to the complexity of accounting associated with Texas school finance systems. And when this rating is given to the school districts, districts are required to hold a public meeting to publicize the district's final rating. One change this year is we went to a 4-level system. It used to be just 3, and they added letter grades. That seems to be the thing that's going on in the state of Texas at this time. So the possible ratings are Superior A, Above Standard B, Meet Standard C, and Substandard Achievement F. Schertz-Cibolo Universal City received a superior rating from TEA, achieving 100 of 100 points in the indicator system. The ratings are based upon the financial data from the 15-16 school year, so that would be 2 school years ago. And beginning last year, I think that we presented to you that we started looking at 15 indicators instead of 7 to determine the school district's first rating, and we'll be going through those 15 indicators. For all of the ratings in the state of Texas, 84% received a superior rating, 11% an above standard rating, and 4% a meet standard, and a little less than 1% for substandard. And I think you will remember that in the past, for instance, even last year, the criteria was much lower for this system, and 98% of the school districts would earn an A. So that's a little bit different from previous years because the standard was raised. So now we're going to go through the 15 rating indicators. The first one was the complete annual financial report and data submitted to TEA within 30 days. And it was 30 days for our budget cycle. For us, that would have been by the January 28th deadline. Our report was submitted on January 19th, 2017. Were there any unmodified opinions in the AFR on the financial statement as a whole? And the external independent auditor determines if there was an unmodified opinion. Yes, the district received an unmodified or clean audit. A modified opinion, that seems kind of like a double negative, but the question is yes, we received an unmodified opinion or a clean audit. Did the external independent auditor report that the audit was free of any instance of material weaknesses and internal controls over financial reporting and compliance for local, state, or federal funds? Yes, the external auditor reported no material weaknesses in the audit report. Was the district in compliance with all of its debt agreements? Yes, all bond payments were made in a timely manner, and there were no disclosures in the AFR concerning default on debt agreements. Did the district make timely payments to our pension plans, teacher retirement, workforce commission, IRS, other government agencies? Yes, all payments were made in a timely manner. Was the total unrestricted net asset balance in the governmental activities column in the state of net assets greater than zero? It was, but if a district has a 5-year percentage change of students that's 10% or more, the district automatically passes this indicator because of high levels of debt when you are fast growth. Was the number of days of cash on hand and current investments in the general fund for the district sufficient to cover operating expenditures? Yes, we were at 174 days of cash on hand, and that does exceed the 90-day requirement for maximum points. And 90 days is with our board policy, the 3 months of operating. Was the measure of current assets to current liabilities ratio for the district sufficient to cover short-term debt? And the answer to that is yes. We were at a 3.27, and basically what that means is we would be able to cover our current debt payment above 3 times with our current financial situation. Was the ratio of long-term liabilities and assets of the district sufficient to support long-term solvency? Now this one, if we were using the standard way to do it, we would have only received 4 points because of the debt that we have as a fast growth district. However, the system looks at if you've increased in students in 5 years of 10% or more, we have increased 15.88%, you're going to receive all 10 points for this indicator. Did the district's general fund revenues equal or exceed expenditures, excluding facilities and construction? And yes, the district's general fund revenues exceeded expenditures in 15-16 by approximately $4 million. Okay, here was our tricky question. Was the debt service coverage ratio sufficient to meet the required debt service? And when we received the report, our initial total points was 90 points, and our original calculation was at 0.2152, and it would not have earned the district any points. However, we appealed this indicator due to the fact that in the denominator of the formula, they were looking at bond, and this is kind of confusing, but they were looking at when we refunded the bonds, and all of that money went into the denominator and showed that we were incurring new debt, and we weren't. And several districts fell into this situation, and we appealed, and therefore they took that out of the denominator because it wasn't new debt, it was just refinanced debt. And our debt service coverage ratio came to 1.3. So that earned us all 10 points. And I think, Dr. Gibson, you received a letter today that said that we... confirming
what they verbally said on the phone.
Right. Was the district's administrative cost ratio equal to or less than the threshold ratio? Yes, our administrative cost ratio is 0.059. The TEA district standard is less than 0.855, and they're looking at function 41 in particular on this question. And did the district not have a 15% decline in the students to staff ratio over 3 years? we're automatically going to pass this because our enrollment continues to go up. However, we would have passed it in the regular way as well. And did the comparison of PEIMS data to like information in the district's AFR result in a total variance of less than 3% of all expenditures by function? Yes, all of our PEIMS data passed the data quality measures. We actually calculated it out, and it was half a percentage point of 1%. So that's like 3 entries. Did the external independent auditor indicate the AFR was free of any instances of material noncompliance for grants, contracts, and laws related to local, state, or federal funds? Yes, no material noncompliance was noted in the AFR. And then did the district receive an adjusted repayment schedule for more than one fiscal year for an overallocation of foundation school program funds as a result of financial hardship? We have not, yes, we have not had any adjusted repayment schedules through the foundation school program. We are in compliance with all spending formulas and all special program allotments. So the results are 15 out of 15, 100 points out of 100 points. It was 60 points minimum to pass. So the district has a superior rating, and we have to give kudos to the accountants and the whole finance team for that work. As a part of the first rating, there are some disclosures. We have to disclose the superintendent's contract, and I believe that the board is very familiar with that, but it is also posted on our website. So we have that attached, and this whole report will be uploaded onto the web. The second disclosure that we have to put out is the reimbursements received by the superintendent and board members for fiscal year 15-16. Remember, that's 2 years ago. So if you're looking at yourself as a board member, those are the reimbursements that you received. And the spirit of the rule is to capture all reimbursements or payments made on behalf of board members or the superintendent for fiscal year ended 2016, regardless of the manner of payment. In disclosure 3, we had none to report for outside compensation. In disclosure 4, gifts received by board members or executive officers, none to report. And in disclosure 5, business transactions between school district and board members for fiscal year 16, none to report. And so at this time, I guess I will go over here, and if there's any questions from the board or the community.
Sure. Since this is a public hearing, do we have any questions or comments from members of the public? Now's your chance, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Dr.
Can you come up to the microphone, please? Just make sure we have it recorded.
Since this is information based on the 2015-2016 school year, I would like to thank Peggy Jaskinia. December is going to be, I guess, officially her last month with the district. Great hands financially under her leadership, and I am going to miss her big time. But anyway, just to acknowledge Ms. Jaskinia and, of course, the finance department with that. Excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sure. Do we know, does Ms. Jaskinia watch these like the day after or so? Just to,
She's probably on live. We're streaming live.
Yeah, okay.
I think the chances of that.
She knows she's in good hands.
Okay, so we'd all say hi to her if she was, but okay. All right. Do we have any other comments from members of the public? Mr. Finley? I think, no? Okay. Thought I'd give him a chance. Any members of the Board of Trustees have any questions or comments?
What is the approximate range? I think in 2015, in this report, it was 174. Board policy says 90 days. What's there a general range we range from, or what is it now, roughly?
The board policy is to have 90 days of cash on hand. So what this would say is, as far as our assets go, we have enough assets through investments and through our fund balances that we could operate for 174 days. I mean, would that be optimum? No, because you're going into your, your current assets and your investments and things like that. But we would be financially solvent for 174 days if the money stopped coming.
Is it still roughly around that same amount today? Or?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I just had a question about the debt service ratio. Could you elaborate what that means?
The debt service ratio would be the amount of debt for per capita for person that lives in your zone.
So if your number is higher than it should be, what is that an indicator of?
It's an indicator that you've had to borrow because you have a lot, of debt. But in a fast growth district, you can see that many of the indicators you're going to get all the points because you are growing, and they realize that.
Okay. All right. Anything further? No? All right. Thank you very much. Next item we have is report on the board advocacy. This is an opportunity for trustees to share with the remainder of the board and the administration and members of the public the things that they may have done over the past month, just to keep all of us aware of what each of us is doing during the course of any given month. So we'll start down here. Mr. Crew, you want to talk about your adventures over the past month?
I haven't talked in 45 days, so I have a lot to talk about.
Uh-oh.
All right, bear with me. I had the wonderful opportunity to go to the TASB Leadership Program overnight. I went down to it, and I got called away, for those who know, to Puerto Rico for 30 days. I just got back a week ago, so I've been in Puerto Rico for 30 days. So the stuff I'm going to talk about were things I did right before I left that I think deserve recognition. I went to Cibolo Valley Elementary right before I left to read to the students, and that wasn't the memorable thing because they picked a book that was too hard for me. But what I did want to mention is that the teacher, Miss Rachel Hink, she showed me what her class had done, and they had put together a video of their mission statement for the classroom. And it was just very interesting, and the children just were so proud to show it, and the values and the things that they wanted to strive for the year to work on. And it was a full-fledged video, and she tried to send it to me, but it was a little bit bigger, and it couldn't be sent. But it was just so amazing to watch these kids put this together and then try to work on those values throughout the year. The other thing is I had the opportunity to go to Clemens High School, and I'm sure a lot of these are probably normal programs I'm just not familiar with, but in the PE class, the PE teacher, Brittany Tollison, has a program, or the school district has a program, where they combined, and I hope I say this right, general education students with special population students for PE, and it was just amazing watching these. And when I asked her about it, she said traditionally they had separated the two, and now they combine them. And using her words, if I could just real quick, of the benefits of it is that they assign the general education students biweekly reflection for them to reflect on growth, trials, errors, and accomplishment. They're also assigned special education vocabulary terms to help build their knowledge in the field of special education, and their abilities to mentor the people that are in the class with them. And it was just amazing watching the two different populations interact, and it was so natural for everybody. I just thought it was a great, great program, and I just wanted to bring recognition to that. And then the last one that I have is I had the opportunity to go to Dobie Middle School, and Miss Nancy Pryor Johnson, the journalism teacher, allowed me to come into her classroom and kind of see how the journalism program worked. And it was amazing things. Once again, I'm sure that everybody knows, I just didn't, but they put on a weekly newspaper. I guess they do an online newspaper, and it was just interesting watching all these students as they were working on everything, and I just thought it was a great program, and I just want to bring recognition to that as well. And then the only other thing I have is that I will be at the Cibolo Creek FFA show coming up, so she promised to show me all the animals and make sure I don't get bit or anything.
There we go. So when is the show?
That's all I have.
John, so when is the show?
It is December 16th.
We're talking about the one over here at our own Ag Barn?
It is.
Okay.
16th. I have it on my calendar.
All right. Very good. Mr. Wilson.
Can you let him milk a goat?
Shh, we don't need to go there.
Let him milk
Let's
a
go.
goat about this one.
Okay.
I'll do it.
Come on, man.
Mr. Westbrook.
I want a video.
I accept that challenge.
You gotta compete with that.
I want a video.
I want to see that. I'm not sure for that one. I had the opportunity to go to a candidates forum during the heavy race that Mr. Inman won. Candidates forum. Got to also read in Mrs. Hink's class, Cibolo Valley. Had an opportunity to speak a little Spanish in their bilingual program. I do know more than a first grader in Spanish, Spanish-wise. Also went to most of the home football games. I got the opportunity to see the Clemens volleyball team put up a very good effort against Reagan. I also had an opportunity to see the fall orchestra, and Mr. Lipe was there with Clemens Fall Orchestra. So I now know the difference between an orchestra and a symphony.
Which is?
Yeah, tell me. Don't leave us hanging.
Well, the orchestra has all the strings. It's all strings. But the symphony has more instruments incorporated into it. The boom, 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 boom. There we go. Something like that. So more or less, that's spark notes. And I learned there's spark notes. It used to be cliff notes when we were young. Now there's something called spark notes out there. So that's a spark notes version.
Very good.
Take your word for it.
Mr. Pivotal.
Yeah, with going back to October, which I touched on it a little bit at our last meeting, but basically continue to do my watchdog thing at Green Valley Elementary at lunchtime on Wednesdays. Attended a few board meetings. Was able to go to a high rounding session with transportation, and that was very interesting. Talked to Francisco about my bus driving days. He was glad that I wasn't a bus driver now. I was able to be a guest reader in Mrs. Pratt's class, as I mentioned the last time. Got to read Goat Tea Locks in the Three Bears. Great book. Also attended a high rounding at Schertz Elementary, and that was also very interesting, doing a lot of great things there. Attended Steele High School National Merit, National Honor Society induction. I was not able to get to the Clemens induction, but I was able to go to the Steele induction. It was great, great ceremony. A lot of kids, great group of kids too. And was able to participate in a coin toss at the Steele and Wagner football game, and enjoyed those too. So thank you.
Mr. Perkins.
I too got to enjoy a couple football games and community Chamber of Commerce, both Tri-County and the Schertz Chamber, and represent us at those events. And I'm also big involved in the communities and schools, and there's more of that coming up.
Strasbeck?
I've, of course, attended football games, got to see the volleyball game between Steele and Clemens, the Pink Out, which was great. Did a couple high-level roundings at Pascal, which was great, and Clemens High School. I'll be going on a few more. Attended the Wade Busby Memorial. That's one that donates a lot to our students in this area to buy their animals at the Guadalupe County Stock Show, and we have some more events coming up, Bar Y and Savannah Hog Wild. So those are three in this area that really support our kids when they purchase their animals. And last but not least, I attended the Community Advisory Committee meeting last month, and I just want to thank those community members that sit in and help make decisions. There's a lot of discussion, tax ratification, bonds, buildings, facility, Mr. Pruski, Mr. Mosley, just a whole group that lends support to answer their questions. And those who haven't attended, the cities are there, both cities, City of Cibolo, City of Schertz are there, putting in, voicing, talking about their things. So it's just great to see it in action. So I appreciate y'all having those.
Great, thanks. Mr. Crew?
Yeah, I forgot one thing, and I just want to mention this, is one day in the mail, I got a note about my daughter, and so I emailed the teacher and asked what it is, and I guess it's the positive postcards that they're now giving out, and asked the teacher what they're for, and they said it's basically just to create dialect and communication between the parents and the students, more than just what you normally get, hey, your child got this grade or whatever, and it's just something, when a student does something, they send them out, and so I really appreciated this program, and I guess I found out because I got one for my daughter, my other daughter, that she got one. I haven't got one for my son yet, but I won't hold my breath. But as a parent, I just wanted to say that programs like these, to me, as a parent, are just really nice, because it's that thing that you get just to say, hey, you know, your daughter did really good in this, and we really appreciated her help with this, or your daughter, you know, just every day she's smiling or something. And those are the things as parents that we don't get to see a lot of, and we don't hear a lot of. So when they, I guess whoever implemented this program or whatever, just as a parent, I would just like to say it really, it means a lot to me as a parent. I'm sure when other parents get it, they feel the same way. So I appreciate the district doing that. We'll figure out how to get my son one, but I'm sure he'll get one sometime.
Okay. Yeah. Went to most of those events, or a lot of them. Just a few things to add. Mr. Westbrook and I went to a Schertz City Council meeting. I guess it was last month. We had several students who were recognized as, I guess, kind of like mayor, council members of the day, or something like that. And I think they spent the whole day over there at City Hall, following the mayor and the city manager, and they were very well received. I guess the only other thing I've been up to the last few months, got to enjoy the campaign experience for the last 3 months. The only thing I'll share with you guys after that, I mean, went to a lot of functions, met a lot of people. Predominantly, most everybody I met with had a very, very positive feel for our school district. I mean, they really did, and that's attributable to all of you guys for doing what you do to lead our school district. Had a few critics, let's call them, kind of same folks that criticize pretty much everything we do. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. But, you know, I also learned a lot about Facebook, an incredibly valuable tool to allow people to discuss things that are going on with our school district. And you see people will stand up for each other. They'll stand up for our staff. They'll stand up for teachers. I saw a lot of good things with respect to that. I also saw the potential danger, too, that we're all under the microscope. I mean, each one of you guys. And you slip up here, you slip up there. I mean, you never know how that gets spread around Facebook sometimes, whether it's true or not, or what have you. So I would just caution you all about that. But the good news of it all, I mean, 90% of the people I spoke to had positive things to say. If they were critical, it was usually small things, or they just had some concerns. But overall, people are very, very happy with the performance of the school district. And that's definitely something that you guys all should feel proud about. So, yeah. Anything further from the board? No? All right. Any objection to taking a quick break? Anybody? Okay. Let's go ahead and adjourn for, let's say, 12 minutes, and we'll come back into, 12 minutes. We'll come back into session at 7:15. Is that right? Just make it easy for you. Okay. Okay. All right, we're back on the record. It's now 7:15. Mr. Mosley, would you mind stepping out real quick and see if you can find Mr. Crew out there, if that's okay? Next item on the agenda is report update on 2017-2018 annual action plan. Annual action plan. Priorities 2 and 3. Dr. Gibson.
Thank you, President Inman and trustees. Tonight, and again, or just as a reminder, not again, just as a reminder, we do this each month to just, remind all of us of our 3 priorities and of our primary goals related to that, and just as a quick checkpoint and open the door for conversation to, trustees with any question you may have. So 2 related to staff satisfaction engagement, and 3 related to community and student and parent satisfaction engagement. One thing that I did put in front of you was the color copy of our annual action plan, and I want you to know for the first time we've had draft all over it, and in some ways I guess draft will be on it for a while, but this is the closest we've had to being able to just pull draft off of it. And I just want to point out a couple of things, and if you'll go to this sounds crazy, but go to the very end, and the green, yellow, and red measurement key. So green means on track and in implementation, or it's hitting, or it's towards the annual goal. Yellow is some barriers to implementation or may not achieve annual goal, or red, not implemented or not trending towards annual goal. So this past Team 1 meeting, what we do when that group of educators or administrators comes together is that we look at these strategic actions that we've shared with you, that this is the way we're going to try to hit this goal, and we score it. And so we had good conversation around that, and so if you see a green on there, some of those greens are solid, it's check and it's done. Other greens that are on there we had a good, healthy discussion, and it was that it's on track. If you look at that line, it's on track to be achieved. Some of the yellows, and this is the way this system's supposed to work, because I just looked down and made a mental note that there's 2 yellows on here that last week I thought I was going to try to get some motion on, and I wasn't here, so I didn't, and so that's where I'll start the next week. And the accountability of just bringing this to the trustees, and I know y'all may look at this and go, wow, it's too much information, or maybe it's not enough information, I don't know, but just know that we call it our cadence of accountability is kind of hardwired in now just to bring this report to the board. And that's and just the fact that we do that helps us. And so don't underestimate this little process that we go through once a month. So with that, I'm not going to read all this to you. I'm putting it in your hand. It's for you to take and look at. You can ask any question you want to. You might track along as Ms. Cannon and I try to go through priority 2 and 3 in about 5 minutes.
Okay. So looking at priority 2, we ask ourselves 4 questions. What does our staff need in order to do their job effectively? How will we listen and learn? How will we know if staff members are fully on board with the vision of the district? And how do we continuously improve? Looking at our spring 2017 data and workforce satisfaction, the 2017 data had us overall at a 69%. In the 2017 benchmark schools, these are nationwide schools that take this very same survey, they were at a 67%. And the 2017 top 20, those are businesses and schools in the San Antonio area that are recognized, and that's at 73%. So looking at the strengths, these are the top 10 strengths that came out of our data for this year. And this is every campus and department's data pulled into one percentage. So here's the very top 10. We're striving to get to 80% overall. So you can see in these areas we're either right there or pretty close to it, or maybe a little bit over it. So these are the areas that we want to celebrate that we're doing a good job, and make sure that we're not losing momentum on these strengths. Here's our areas of weakness. So these are the areas that need to be addressed. So now these are your very lowest 10 statements from the survey. And so we're looking at those over the 3-year trend period. Are they going up or are they trending down? So we're taking a look at that. 10's a lot of things to work on at one time. So as we're out talking with staff members, we're asking them to take a look at our very lowest 5 and ask them to help us drive some action there. What are some opportunities for us to look at and make decisions and create actions that will help us increase in these areas? So overall, you can see the very lowest is our benefits. It's actually trending downward instead of upward at all at 19%. When we look at the nationwide schools and we look at those top 20 San Antonio area businesses and schools, really that pay question at 51% is about where everybody else is, but their benefits section is not. They're much higher than us in the benefits. So probably out of the two, the more concerning to me is the benefits than the pay. So what we've committed to is that we're looking at these results, district as a whole and then each campus and department. We're actually rolling out the data to make sure that we get input from our staff, and then we're planning action around that so that we can continuously improve. We're engaging with our employees, so we're going out and talking with our employees. Supervisors and principals are actually talking with their employees about their own specific data, trying to really key into what things we need to work on and the things that we need to celebrate. We're selecting actions based on that data and talking with our staff members so that we can increase our employees' engagement and satisfaction. So here's an example of one thing that we did at Team One on our strengths. We wanted to celebrate the things that we're doing well, and these were our 3 highest strengths from the statements on the survey this last spring. So as a team, we talked about what's one example of these items that you've witnessed in the past 30 days, so we could remind ourselves of the things we've been doing. What makes you likely to recommend SCUC to others, and then what makes you feel like you're a part of something meaningful. And we had conversations around those questions. And then as a team, we also committed that we were all going to roll out our data. So in the summer and in August timeframe, departments, a lot of them did it in the summer because they were here. Campuses obviously used that August window to roll out the data to their campuses and to their staff members. But we committed as a whole at Team One that we would all do that in our own campuses and departments. Then we were going to validate that everyone rolled it out. So in the September Team One meeting, we came back and we collectively agreed that we would roll out our best practices, and we actually did a rounding session where we all talked about the things that we had done and the actions that we had created based on the data, our own specific data. And then we talked about in August and September making sure that we had an action to improve upon, 1 to 2 things. And then we looked at making sure we committed that at September Team One we were going to share that feedback and that data for potential action so we could get ideas from each other about how they're looking at making changes based on the data.
You know, Linda, if I may, high-level rounding, and you haven't joined for those because you're doing staff advisory, but for those up here at the front, when we ask what's working well in Priority 2, almost 100% go to the way the data was rolled out and the support that was given through coaching, and then how we kind of did that as a collective effort.
Very good. We do have our turnover rate data from this last year. Actually, this is year-old data. But looking at our data from the TAPA report, it is, again, we're at 77.1% for our turnover rate. You look at the state and our districts around us, we all are still doing well with retaining our staff members. Then if you look at our comparison districts, these are statewide districts that we compare to, again, we're doing really well as far as our turnover rate. So again, we want to be proud of that and continue to work with our staff to look at things that we can create as actions to help them out with the work that they do. And then from the annual action plan, these are the actions we looked at for Priority 2 for this year that we're working on. First one is from the high-level rounding. Dr. Gibson would share the themes from that at mid-year and end of the year, and I'm actually sharing that at staff advisories as well each time I meet with the teams. We all said that we would use feedback tools at each of our meetings so that we get feedback on how that meeting went and training so we can improve. I'm working with Dr. Wood on a needs assessment for professional development, both in the instruction side of the house and also the operations side. So we really gear our professional development towards the needs of our staff members. Staff advisories and our DIC are completing SWOTs on the Workplace Dynamics Survey so that we really take a look at what we can do to improve actions there. We're actually doing a small survey at DIC tomorrow, doing a shortened version of the survey. We took those 10 top strengths and the 10 lowest areas, and we call it a quick check, and we're asking them to kind of tell us where they are now and give us comments on things that they think we need to work on or maybe things that are going well. So we're doing that with our DIC. I'm also asking staff advisories to do that short survey. And then, like we talked about earlier in the presentation, we're just making sure that we're collectively agreeing that we're going to roll out the data, that we're going to do something with the data. We're going to come back as a team as a whole, and we're going to review what we need to do and try to look at best practices and learn from each other about how we're, creating actions based on the data.
We'll come back in January or February, whatever the next report is, with student and parent and community, student and parent data, and then we'll also share some thoughts about what we may do with a community survey. But what I would like to talk about tonight real quickly is that this part about effective and efficient. So when we're working, when you're working on that, there are some ways to measure efficiency, with just hard numbers. There's a big part of that we believe is that efficiency and effectiveness comes through the eyes of your customer. So whoever you're serving with your actions, that's who partially is responsible to tell you whether it's effective and maybe whether it's efficient, but definitely whether it's effective. So in other words, we say this all the time, that we're not legends in our own mind. We actually want to know, what our customers believe. So to that end, we started last year, our district services survey. Go ahead. And these are the strategic actions that are on your sheet. And we started district services survey. Now, so when I'm going to distribute this just so you can take a look at it, and this is really just the takeaway probably for tonight for the board. So we have taken the top, however many are on that page. Do you happen to know, Dee, 27 key work processes or 20? It's approximately 20.
Well, it's just for every department.
6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So there's about 20 on that page. So 20 different departments, I see what you're saying. And then we have anywhere from 4 to 10 key work processes for each of those departments. And then we measure perception of those that we serve in 2 ways. And one is just on a scale that's just how are we doing 1 through 5. But then we ask these specific questions. How are we doing on accessibility? Can you reach a live person or an electronic tool when you need to? Are we accurate? Did you get the right information or service, or was at least, if there was a variation, it was communicated to you? Was the attitude? You can be as accurate as you want, but if the attitude's bad, you'll probably get a picture in your mind of some place you called and it frustrates you. So we're trying to work on the attitude also. Then operations, do the day-to-day operations. And I love the fact that Student and Academic Services made it clear right off the bat that operations is not the only place that has operations. And they worked, in fact, that's the one y'all zeroed in on, right? They zeroed in as a high level for them all to work on operational efficiency through Student and Academic Services, which is kind of cool. And then timeliness. So when we get those results back, similar to our top workplace, you start looking at yourself compared to the mean, yourself, compared to the 5-point scale. And we always say there's no right or wrong with this, just, there's a number, and, it's quantified now, and so, yeah, we put it up there where you can see it, and everybody else can see it, but, let's ask the people that we're serving how we can get better. So we started, and by the way, you have this presentation, but there's the measurement metrics, there's the thing that I just put in your hand, and then here's the actual scores. So what we started doing, we call it speed rounding, because there's not enough time for every single person that you're looking at right here in front of you to go to every single department and say, hey, I only need 30 minutes of your time. Well, if everybody did that, that would be how many hours? So what we decided to do was, well, this is perfect. So this half of the room speed rounded 1 month, and this half of the room speed rounded another month. And we set up stations, some of y'all may have seen it on Twitter, all the way around this room. So, one had a station there, a station there, a station there. And what they shared were a couple of their high results with the district services survey, and then a couple of the things that were lower than the others. And they asked the question, what can we do to improve it? So I'm going to let anybody tell me about speed rounding or tell the board about speed rounding. Did you get... The newbie gets to do this?
I did.
Yeah.
All right, so speed rounding, that process was a very effective process and learning about what all of these folks in here are their top priorities and their actions for this year. Because we specifically looked at our bottom on what we're going to do in increasing those results. So we all were able to share, here's what we're going to do. And so it was a very timely way of learning about what everyone in our district is challenged with in increasing the support that we give each other as a whole as a district. And from a principal, coming from a principal and sitting in this chair today as a director, that was very powerful because I know that these people support me, but I didn't really know how. And knowing their key work processes and knowing that that's how they support me as a principal, and now as a director, this is how I support our principals, it just makes us all well aware of the work that we all do on a day-to-day basis. So.
And it was fast-paced, is that fair to say? So,
very fast-paced.
yeah.
I wish we had more time to discuss. We never had enough time, but
Yeah.
it was, but like you said, we would be here forever just talking.
Yeah, so in order to just, we did 5 minute and then we moved, and 5 minute and we moved, and 5 minute we moved. So we moved to every station. Do y'all have one, Mr. Prisk?
It was coincide with what was shared already, but it was a validation point as well. Checking on areas that we determined of some with the different departments on what we were going to focus on, and then asking during the speed rounding, is this the right work? Is this to sound like it's the right action to go towards? And I think we got some very valuable feedback from those groups as we cycled through during Team 1.
And it doesn't end, and we know that, so we'll gather more data. Dee Dee, when is?
We're going to administer this survey this fall, December 4th through the 15th, I think.
Okay, so then we'll get another set of data in early spring, and then late spring we'll do another set of speed rounding and report out. This was the first cut. What's interesting is that for some, and this is really germane to this, and then we'll wrap it up with this, but it is so open to feedback that someone could say, I don't know if your key work processes are right. You know, and then if someone can make a reasonable argument of why they don't think that's right, then we would even modify key work processes, if that makes sense, not just the measurement of the key work process. So watch how fast we go through the rest of these slides. Those are clever little pictures that wound up on this, and we just talked about all that, okay? And this is the prompt that we all followed. I know that sounds a little bit rote, but yet that helped us make it fast because everybody was following the same process. And that's it. We appreciate the opportunity to give this report to the board.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments from trustees?
I just have a comment. Something I discovered when we were doing rounding one day. I went from transportation to Schertz Elementary. In both places, I believe we talked about the assistant principals, professional learning or academy or whatever y'all call it, but support for the assistant principals. And I didn't realize that was something that was going on, but to me that certainly lays in this presentation this evening. And I just, having been an assistant principal one time back in the dark ages, I can appreciate the support that's needed by an assistant principal in order to be effective in their job, and also hopefully to support that assistant principal so that they can move further up if they choose to do that. So I appreciate that fact that we actually do that for our assistant principals. And I just wanted to state that, so thank you.
Yeah, and so to draw a linkage to that, I'm assuming, because I immediately grabbed the key work processes, we under secondary support and elementary support, we have leadership development as a key work process, which that would fall under, right? So then that's open for feedback constantly of, is it being, are we effective? Is it working? You know, how could it improve? And that's the way that works. So thank you for bringing that out.
The only other thing I had with this, and I know that it's already been discussed once tonight and we're looking at options, but if I remember correctly, it was 19% was the number for the, I guess, feedback regarding the benefits.
Right.
You know, and for me, I guess that's just always one of the big ones, you know, salaries, benefits, and those things, because those, we always talk about, we have a very low turnover rate, but those are the numbers that cause us to have turnover rate. So I hope that we continue to keep looking for ways, I know we are, to improve the benefits and the packages and the things that we offer employees, because that's what keeps us with that low turnover rate.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because obviously if we're trying to hit 80%, 19% doesn't help in the average. And, you know, we've talked about, well, you know, that is what it is. The benefits, when we have not yet, and I don't want to, I'm not going to start into the item that's coming up, but while we're on this subject, that number, you know, it's gotten our attention, I guess, is the bottom line. And so we've gone and we've asked staff at Vasdry's now twice, 2 cycles, and then we've just now, I think we've got 2 or 3 campuses left for our 3rd cycle. Who's left? Clemens and Corbett and Jordan, and then we're through with our 3rd cycle of asking. And, you know, we've captured the feedback, and, you know, people don't know exactly how to articulate it, but a lot of the articulation is, well, how does Northeast ISD have a better plan than we have with health insurance? You know, that's just simply the way that it's asked. And so, you know, 3 years ago when we first started looking at this number, you know, when people start asking that, you start doing research. Well, they have a partially self-funded plan, and they're running their own plan. And that's when we started even the consideration, and it was based on staff feedback, I guess is what I'm saying.
And I was just going to say thanks for sharing the, you know, key work process. I saw the pictures of the rounding, and thank you for explaining how they did that. That's great that y'all were able to do that survey part, because a lot of times we only hear about the parent survey, the staff survey, and it's great to hear about district operations doing that.
All right, we're all good? Okay. All right, thanks. Next item is report November 2017 construction update. Mr. Pruski. I was about to make a little comment about that photo.
Okay, good evening. This is the November Bond 2016 construction update, mostly regarding Rose Garden and Clemens. And I'm going to let Mr. Mosley start it off.
Good evening. So starting off with our Rose Garden project, budget again, $38 million for that project. We're at 56% completion out at Rose Garden. Project's going very well at this point. Some of our ongoing activities, a lot of these things are the same as we've seen in the last month, looking at CMU, brick installations, all of our mechanicals, our plumbing, our electrical going in throughout the building. Basically, the building is working from the back towards the front. So as we finish mechanical in the back, it's all moving up towards the front of the building. So we're doing roofing. We're actually getting windows installed at this point, perimeter fencing, and then interior painting actually started as well. Again, the rendering looks very similar to the one at Cibolo Valley. Here's our footprint. Out here on the left is 1518, so you can see the building here. Again, so when I say moving from back to front, these areas of our building are closer to finished than these areas up here towards 1518. And so all of these are in different phases right now. Some pictures. I think the pictures always tell the story of kind of where we're at if you haven't seen it from the road. This is looking from the back of the campus. This area is our discovery zone here. You can see they're putting up CMU and waterproofing on those walls. This is the same area from a different viewpoint. So again, this is those same CMU walls. This is the foundation for that discovery zone that we just looked at from the other side. Inside the building, you're looking right now at the entry corridor of the building. And you can see that they're already starting to put up some temporary plastic partitions. We use these during construction to make sure we start sealing off areas that are further along in the project. You know, as we progress, we want to make sure that our construction debris and materials aren't getting into those areas that are further along, so we start to partition those things off. Out front, you can see we've already got curbs for parking lot and parent drop-off. And then two-week look ahead. A lot of these things are similar to the ongoing stuff with the CMU and the MEP specialties, continuing stud framing, interior walls, window installations. I think our biggest, our next big milestone is bringing in permanent power from CPS. And so I know that we're hoping to have that in by Thanksgiving. So, and that's Rose Garden.
Okay, now for the easy one. Thank you, JD. Clemens High School, currently now at about 18% complete, moving forward. At the bottom of this, you'll see it in thirds down there on the ongoing activities. The CTE building, which will be coming online first, followed by the classroom addition on the far right, and then the event center, which is in the middle over here on the east side of the campus. So there's a couple of different steps going on each one of these. To keep it simple, CTE building, we're looking at having it substantially complete mid-December, if not complete in December, and then students in the building actually taking it over in January when they return from the break. So that's the first major milestone there. As far as on the classroom and front admin addition, you'll see that, and as well as on the new gym here, the auxiliary gym, going vertical with the steel, and then having that moving forward, and then the framework or form work, as well as for the drilling piers and the steel erection starting up for the event center. So we're doing that circular motion from the back side to the front to the east side. So working forward through there. I did it again. This is twice. Okay, so here is the CTE building from aerial view. You can see the proximity of where it is as far as from the baseball stands and to the building and the science wing. This is the science wing. We're looking at it from west to east. Moving right along, and they're working on finishing up outside, steel metal panels going on, and then trying to finish out the inside. This is the northeast parking lot, the future parking lot, which should be moving forward and hopefully having a bow around it on Christmas. This is the east side, the event center. So in the far upper left, you can see the new auxiliary gym. And then working your way back towards the foreground here, the building of where the locker rooms, choir room and dance room will be, and then the auditorium on the bottom part of this sort of like triangle, so you can kind of visualize where everything is. Very tight, compacted workspace, as you can see, and it's moving along very, very well. So another picture from the front, you can see the steel going in. Actual decking going on for the second floor and working themselves from west to east. Another picture of the gym. And then the 2-week look ahead, kind of like what we've already mentioned, CTE building, roughing in with MEP, exterior to be complete, working on interior work. As far as on the event center, the suspended slab and concrete pour form work, drilling of the piers, and then the structural steel for the gym. And then on the classroom addition, continuing on with the steel erection and then decking the second floor. JD, on this one, we're good, correct?
Yeah, on the HVAC is just punch items at this point, so really not a lot going on.
Okay. And that's about it. Any questions? Sorry.
Schreisbeck.
Well, I was just going to thank Wayne, Mr. Pruski, for a parent brought something to my attention and he forwarded on, and I want to give kudos to the construction people and everything else taking care of a matter, and that parent was very satisfied. They just wanted to make us aware of something, and it was all handled very well. So I just wanted to thank Mr. Pruski as well as the whole construction management group that all came together.
I will pass that on to him as well.
Please pass that on.
And just, I don't want to elaborate on it, but it kind of comes underneath the category of, with Facebook and these cell phones, and everybody's watching. And at any given moment, they're observing what you're doing, and that can get passed around, and that's, in a sense, what happened. And yeah, I know the construction crew, immediately stepped on it and made sure everything was okay. So, I assume we're talking about the same thing, right? Okay.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Wayne.
Anything else?
Yeah, I got a
Mark?
quick question. Wayne, is there any update on technology and transportation? I mean, it's listed there.
Right.
I didn't know if there was anything new or anything to report.
Transportation, we're full with the bus purchases.
I mean, so it's complete?
Not yet. We just got the fully funded,
Okay.
the second sale fully funded everybody now for the
Right.
rest of the purchases. We did a partial purchase on the front end.
Right.
So now we're gonna finish up on the back end, and when that's complete, we'll
Okay.
let you know.
Okay.
The same on the technology side.
All right, thank you.
All right, anything further? Okay, thanks, Wayne. All right, next item is report management fees under certain co-op purchasing contracts. Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Gibson. Oh, yes, sir.
There we
According to the Education Code, we are required to report to the board and have in our agenda the amount, purpose, and disposition of any fee in a written report submitted annually in an open meeting of the board for purchasing cooperative contracts and the fees that are charged by them. And this is our report for this current year. Some of the fees that we have, well, actually, most of the fees are paid out of the general fund. Only a bus purchasing fee was paid out of the 2016 bond as part of a bus purchase order. That was made through the Texas Association of School Boards Buy Board, Local Government Purchasing Cooperative. Our total fees under that cooperative were $2,800. This past year, they also provided a rebate to our district in the amount of $7,875.99. But they were not special. They did hand out almost $7 million last year to all their members statewide. So that was our percentage. CTPA is another that we share, $125 annually. That's based out of Round Rock. There's now over 70 school districts that were members of this alliance with other school districts. And Region 2013, we still use them for general supplies, education technology, and the Texas Comptroller. There's a $100 annual fee, which is the best bargain in town. Now, our total fees for the whole year last year for purchasing cooperatives were $4,672. There's no action. This is just a report item only for compliance.
All right, any questions on this? All right, thank you, Matt. Again, that's something you report out every year? Okay, all right, great. All right, next item is for discussion, memorandum of understanding between Alamo Community College District and SCUCISD regarding the Lower Valley Schoolhouse artifacts. Dr. Gibson.
Thank you, and I'll cover this item. I believe my name is by it, but I'll give kudos to Mr. Rivera for the review. And basically what we're handing you is a MOU between Alamo College District and ourselves related to the artifacts that came from the old Lower Valley Schoolhouse that's on this poster that's behind Miss Cornejo right back here. And at one point, Northeast Lakeview College and the Alamo College system was had moved that facility over and was going to try to make a museum out of it. I guess basically had a relatively robust fundraising program for about a year, and then it seemed to trail off and trail off and trail off, and I think they hit about, I don't know, 8% is what I think I heard of their goal. So they fell way short of the goal, and so they're actually putting out for the sale of the facility right now, which I think will wind up being scrap lumber, if I was guessing, because there seems to be a really big market for that kind of vintage lumber. So the contents of it, technically, because they weren't covered in the original MOU, belong to us. Their attorney believes. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but it seems to be the cleanest way to, we have a process that Matt monthly engages in with surplus material, and so we believe that it's probably accurate that it's ours to take through our surplus material process. So what you're seeing, and we went ahead and just shared you a couple of markups just because, I mean, we do that stuff all the time, but we saw two items, I believe, that did not align with our board policy, so we wanted you to see that. So you're seeing a work in progress, and is that correct, Matt? We're just sending this back to them for review?
Yes, sir. Those items that a district can still reuse or recycle within the district will be dispersed in the district. And those items that are designated, that they're obsolete or we can't use them, those items will be disposed of.
So this will be brought back as a action item at our next board meeting.
Does everybody understand about the underlying school here we're talking about? Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Any further questions on that item? All right. Seeing none, and again, that's going to come back in December, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I believe there's a timeline that they're asking to get going with, so
Okay.
we're going to do our best to bring it back in
Sure.
December.
Number 5, discussion update on 2017-18 superintendent's areas of focus, specifically dealing with the charter school designation. Dr. Gibson.
Yeah, and I apologize that and you all can hand them right back to us, and we'll put them in our recycle bin if that's what you desire, but we want you to take what interests you. I apologize, thank you. So, one of the areas of, and I'm going to bring 2 of them in here, and I'm going to talk about them at the same time, and then we're going to split them back apart. But the District of Innovation and then the charter school designation had some overlap, because by statute, you could get at a charter school designation by basically asking for almost everything that a DOI would give you. But you would only be able to, well, you would limit that to just that one campus. And so we just got worried about the confusion created between here we're trying to look at DOI as the entire district, but then we're trying to look at one campus potentially as a district charter school. So basically what our attorney is giving us here is that, and it's a pretty long document just to be the cover page document, but that's the way it works. And the conclusion that we can get at this by just going at it with a straight charter school, just asking the state for the process of having our own charter school. And again, we're not ready at all to make that recommendation, but we believe at this time it's prudent for us to look at, as we proceed forward, to only do it through that avenue, that legal avenue, and leave the DOI over to the other thing we're doing with DOI. So, we're about to map this thing out. We've got another 18 months. We've got some folks that came tonight that, I don't know if it was for this subject, but we had a nice conversation about what other school districts are doing with charter school designations, and I appreciate the feedback a lot. You're going to wind up on a committee as a result of that conversation, but I think she already said that's fine. So we'll start the process of looking at what our community and parents want. And it may be, I'm going to just stress this right now, it may be in the end that this is not something we want to do. But it may be that this is something we do want to do. Now, the fact is that districts all over the state of Texas, traditionally in urban environments, but not completely limited to urban environments, coming soon to a suburban area near you, is charter schools. And it is allowed through Texas statute. If someone can get a charter from the state of Texas, then they can open a school. Well, a few years ago, for some reason, it just struck me that we have the same opportunity and we don't use it. We don't take advantage of it. And that's kind of where this idea hatched a couple of years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago. So I guess we're just asking the board to, give us a little bit of time here and research, and we'll report it through all of our advisory committees, and I'm assuming we'll have another advisory committee, at least ad hoc, to help us with this topic alone, and we'll keep the board fully aware of it.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this?
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Greg, when you do that, I'd appreciate, I think as the community would, like, you normally would talk about like the funding. How's this going to be funded? Just be, you're very good at being transparent and everything.
Right.
I think that's going to be one of the questions is, okay, if Rose Garden, the current Rose Garden campus is going to be turned into that, then all of a sudden, are we going to have to put any funds into it? We're going to have to bring that school up to any kind of code or speed, because are we looking, is the charter school only going to be, is this just a K-6 campus? Is it a K-12 campus? What are our intentions? And then how are we going to fund it? Does the charter school get funded out of our regular operating funds, or is this something funded separately by the state or whatever? So.
Yeah, those are all good questions, and one couple of thoughts come to mind. So we've asked the city of Universal City if they were in favor of this, and it was an emphatic yes immediately from kind of the upper echelons of the administrative staff. And so, you know, what we said, okay, that translates into we may need some time to work on this before you start telling us to do A, B, C, D. Okay, so because if we want it to be, we need to see if it's going to be successful before we do put a lot of sunk costs, you know, right up front. So that's one thing. There are federal grants that are meant to start these things so that it doesn't put an impact. So that's another thing. And then probably just purely from a physical standpoint that we've talked about is maybe opening up even 25% of the enrollment to outside of our district for tuition to help offset the cost. I mean, those are some of just the preliminary thoughts bouncing around.
Yeah. Again, I think that it just needs to be in your your presentation to the community. You know,
Yeah.
people don't know what this is.
Yep.
People just don't know what it is, how it gets funded, you know, what's the difference, you know, just kind of that fact sheet that you're really good about putting out there.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add from a big picture standpoint, Dr. Gibson and I have talked about this for a while. It's just, you know, schools are going to have to become more and more what I call consumer focused or customer focused, and this is all part of change. And again, I saw this over the past few months. I mean, there are parents that are thinking about homeschooling or doing other options for whatever reason. Doesn't mean we have a bad school system, but maybe they just individually feel like their needs are not being met. And to some extent, and instead of letting the private sector or some other group out there try to meet those needs, this is an attempt for us to, since we do have the resources and the expertise and the experience to try to think of unique and creative ways to maybe meet some of those unique needs out there that don't fit into the normal frame that we deal with often. But you know, not something we're committed to at this point, but just taking a look at and seeing if it's something that works for us and for our community, and hits on all those bases. So, any questions on that? Okay. All right. Thanks. No. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Just not right now. I think if you want to hang around to the end, you can have one-on-one conversations, or maybe the next board meeting or whatnot. We'll definitely be willing to listen to your input at the appropriate time. Okay. All right. Thanks, man. Next item is the discussion solicitation for high school color guard consulting services. Mr. Leip.
The purpose of this solicitation is to contract with one or more service providers for high school color guard and winter guard consulting services on an as-needed basis. They'll assist the high school band directors with choreography, design, flags, instruction, and evaluation during marching band rehearsals.
Yeah, I've got a few questions. Mr. Leip, what would be the approximate or estimated cost for something like this?
Probably, this is something we've been doing, but our costs have gone up and reached a threshold to where now we needed to go out for bid on this. I'm thinking it was just over $50,000.
So we have done this before? We have been
Yes.
hiring consultants for this before?
Yes. Rather than employ these people ourselves.
So that was a budgeted item in the
Yes.
school's
And
budget?
it's currently in the budget.
Because I don't believe we've had this come before us.
No,
before,
because
so-
it was not, we were not to the threshold
That's
that
why
required a formal bid.
I'd never heard about this, so I was questioning if we'd ever had this before and where does the need come from? So this is something we've been doing. I can understand that.
Yes,
So
sir.
you say the cost
Yes.
for this has gone up for,
Well, as the programs have grown.
yeah, okay. All right. Well, let me ask you for the color guards, you're talking about the flags, the people that are out there on the field with the flags, am I correct? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are they a portion of the band program, or are they a portion of the dance program, or are they just separate and
There
to themselves?
would be more, they're a separate class, but they're really under the supervision of the band
Okay.
director.
All right. So, and how are they selected?
There's an audition
Okay.
process in the
Okay.
spring.
Okay. And they're judged by who?
In many cases, it's by these consultants that
Okay,
help us out
okay.
with these.
All right, I get you. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I was just curious, because
Sure.
We'd never talked about this before, so anyway, I was just curious. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Carew.
Hey, just to clarify, just because I'm not familiar with it, so we're talking about, we've spent this money in the past to do exactly what it says, to design the costumes, you know, do the choreograph and all that. For the dance team, who does it for the dance team?
The dance teams, they do a lot of it internally. They use some consultants as well, not to this dollar amount.
So I just from my knowledge, just because I don't understand, why is it that we just don't have the capability, such as the dance team does for the most part, to do it internally ourselves? Do we just not have someone that can do it, or is it?
It would require us hiring our own employees to do the work.
Okay.
We don't have the expertise or the number of people that would be needed to do it.
Would it be a position similar to like a cheer coach, where it's I don't know what the correct term is, but a extra paid duty, like a cheer coach is, or something? Would it be equivalent to something like that?
Yes, that and a certain level of expertise in this field that would be required, that would be kind of rare to find in a classroom teacher.
So then my last question would be exactly that. If it was possible, there could always theoretically be someone that says, hey, I did that when I was in high school or college or whatever, and we could look at an option of saying we could add it to and I don't know what the correct term is, a similar position to like a cheer coach or one of those, if we did have someone that had that expertise, and that's just what we don't have.
Right, and if they had room in the schedule to add a class or 2 class periods.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
So band also has somebody, I mean, consultant services too. I mean, I used to be under the impression that the band director is the person who created the whole, I don't know what the word is, but deciding on where all the kids go when they're out there on the field. That's not the choreography or whatever it's called.
In a time long ago, yes, but it has become rather a complex and intricate thing, and yes, so there are people that specialize in these sort of things, and that's what they do for a living to help.
Right, so we hire outsiders to also come in to choreograph these halftime performances,
to work with the band directors,
contest performances and all that too, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I got a quick question. And maybe Matt may have to answer this as well. So what you're telling me is that we have 2 high schools that they don't share the same company, right? Do they?
Yes, they can.
Oh,
they wouldn't have to.
I mean, do they now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they do share the same company, so that's why it's probably getting over the $50,000.
Yes, sir.
But if they were to separate companies, and that would be under the threshold, then we wouldn't have this conversation. Is that right? Because it's the same line item for the school district, but it's not the same line item by campus.
Right, when we look at the whole, we look at the aggregate.
Okay, that's what my question is,
For
Matt.
the entire district, we don't separate campuses. So
Okay.
we're looking at the district's obligation.
All right, thank you.
I just have one. We do have teachers though, right? Or they have their own class,
We have
correct?
sponsors, yes.
Sponsors, that's
They
right.
don't have the expertise in the design and the
That's right.
instruction.
But they still get their own class period, I remember.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
What are the qualifications for choosing? Maybe I missed it. Like, what are you looking for in a company?
Well, we have several things that they were required to submit in the bid, and we'll be looking at their experience, their background, their training, references from other places that they've worked with, things such as that, as well as cost and services that they can provide.
And their past success ratio with other?
Sure.
Still, okay.
All right, we're good. All right, again, this will be back in December as well? Or-
Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks, sir. Nothing further on that? All right, next item is the discussion, conveyance of an easement to GVAC on 101-acre district property off of Old Weiderstein Road in Schertz. Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Gibson, we've been approached by the Guadalupe Valley Electric Co-op to provide an easement for them so they can provide more services to customers near our 101-acre district property off Old Weiderstein Road. A copy of the right-of-way easement and the area affected is there. We will be ascertaining, working with them to see what is the value of the property in question. And because our district, our campus site may not actually obtain any value from this, we may be asking GVEC to pay whatever that fair market value is for that area in question. I know it's minimal, but if we're not obtaining any value, we need to do that. This is just a discussion item tonight.
And again, will this be back in December?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any questions, folks? All right, thanks, Matt. Next item is discussion and conveyance of easements to the city of Schertz, the Ray Corbett Junior High School area. Mr. Rivera?
Yes, and I'm gonna go ahead, and I didn't tell him, I'm surprised, Wayne. If I reach a point where you want details on what the overall purpose of this is, I'll have to defer to Mr. Pruski. The city of Schertz has asked us for access easements and water easements in order for them to work on a water storage tank area near our Corbett Junior High and our future site in that area. And they have to cross over our property, the construction company that they're hiring. So they're asking for easements for that purpose, for constructing, and permanent easements for permanent access, and as we'll see later on tonight, for power for CPS as well. This will be a good thing for our district, and we will benefit from this. Mr. Pruski, do you want to add anything about the value of that project?
I would just reiterate what you were saying. This ties in line behind the road and the property that we own that goes past Corbett down to the Friesenhahn tract and then out to Schaefer Road. So the city's looking for a way to get into there. They're working on some utility structure, and they need access through there. That's the start of this. And then in doing this, this will benefit us as well.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? Okay, thanks, man. Next item discussion, again, that'll be back in December.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next item, number 9, discussion, conveyance of easements to city public service, Ray Corbett Drive as well. So again, that same easement, essentially just overlapping?
Yes, sir. However, it's just to a different entity. It's going to be providing power. We'll have access to that as well.
All right, okay. All right, any questions on that one? And that'll also be back in December?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so those are our report and discussion items, and it looks to me, Dr. Gibson, you can confirm, we're going to have items number 4, dealing with a memorandum with ACCD. Number 6, solicitation of high school color guard consulting services. Number 7, which is easement to GVAC. Number 8, easement to City of Schertz. And number 9, easement to CPS. Those will be the items back on the agenda for December. Right? Okay. And again, as always, board members are free to pull each and every one of those for individual discussion if so warranted. So, all right. Anything further on that, Mr. Westbrook?
Have we ever not granted an easement?
Actually, at times an easement wasn't really required. When they asked for an easement, all they wanted to do is cross our property to work on something, and then they were all done. And in that case, we didn't want to give them a permanent easement. We gave them basically a temporary construction license just to walk over our property, rather than putting something in the Bexar County records that's not necessary. So in that case, we've said no, it's not necessary. On the other hand, sometimes they balk. We don't need an easement if we have to pay for it. So we've gone that route as well.
Okay, thank you.
And this falls under the category of being good partners with people that you're going to be working with for a long time. So, yeah, and what comes around goes around. So and I appreciate the due diligence that Matt does. What's the value? Are we getting a value? And if not, we ask for payment for it.
Yeah, everyone okay with that? All right, next item we have is the consent agenda items. We have A through D. We can approve these all as a group, or if any trustee would like to pull one for individual discussion, you can do that at this time as well. And I'll point out one of the first 3 items are typical things that we do, and the 4th item, D, is the solicitation for the artificial turf at the district stadium. So just wanted to point that out. So does anyone have a need to pull any of these for individual discussion? No? Okay. Everybody okay? All right, do we have a motion then on these consent agenda items, A through D?
I move the Board of Trustees approve the consent agenda as presented, approval of minutes, B, approval of financial statements, C, acceptance of superintendent's report, and budgeted purchase of goods and services in excess of $50,000, and D, solicitation of artificial turf and replacement district stadium.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Good, Mr. Westbrook. Any further discussion?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Ms. Maloney, I think this might be for you, because that turf came in, we moved over as a lower. Does that stay in the general fund? I think the turf replacement, we had allowed,
750, I think, right?
yeah, more.
It was an EPP item.
Okay.
And so it came in at a lower thing, and it will stay in the general fund, yes.
Okay. Okay. That's
Part,
fine.
I just would add to that, part of that budget number there is too, is once we pull the turf up, it's a little bit of a.
Right. We don't know what's gonna.
Hopefully, we don't need
Yes.
that, but that's another reason why that number is there
No,
as well.
And I was great, I was
Yes.
grateful that it came in less.
That number also includes our design fee, specifications, our contract administration fee.
Okay.
So there's a little bit more on top of that as well. We just, the guy in the back, he needs
There
to get
goes
paid.
the
The one in the
extra.
pink shirt, we want to make sure we pay him. But thank you.
Okay. I guess, Mr. Lenhoff, is, I mean, you know, what's the timing on this whole project then? Like, which will be when? So we're talking about here in the next month or so? Well, that's okay. I mean, yeah, I don't want to be negative. Sorry about that, but just, so the next, sometime after Christmas, let's put it that way, right? Okay. I guess the question would be then our soccer programs, where are they going to be playing?
When we started, we could, fortunately, both of our soccer programs, the first half of their schedule was really played on the road.
Yeah.
We got into first couple weeks of February, we could have displacement, soccer to Shelton for a couple district ball games, which we got a plan.
Okay.
We've done that before when we were working on the press market.
And then the current turf, do we have all kinds of uses for that? I call it cannibalize our own. I mean, baseball programs gonna be able to use it. I mean, we're gonna be able to use that old field in different capacities, I guess, right?
Sidelines, because there's not lines on the sidelines, we're going to use I don't know if there's a cost, but the hassle of moving a lot of that turf could become very, very tough for us in the district to handle if we were to keep all of it.
Okay.
We've already kind of agreed to keep the sideline greens.
Okay. All right, just checking. Any further questions, comments? No? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign? Okay, motion passes unanimously.
And before we move on, Mr. Emmons, I might have had a moment of clarity where what the person wanted to communicate at the back of the room a while ago just hit me. What she may have wanted to communicate was that industry is so involved right now in charter schools that a lot of industry, depending on the choice that you make, can fund. Back to your question of funding, Mr. Wilson, that's another avenue for funding. And she may have wanted to share that. I don't know, but that's just a guess. Then also, as a cycle of refinement, Mr. Pruski and our EPP team, and so we're just putting a draft in your hand tonight, and this is related to the turf that we were just talking about and other items. And Ms. Dreisbeck, I believe, primarily, and other trustees had weighed in, and we'll continue to work on this. So it's being handed you tonight as feedback, but it's a way for us to track these projects as they move through the system, and which ones are more than 50,000 we anticipate, which ones will go for a bid, which ones are part of a co-op that we anticipate we can, so that you see on what you brought up. Yeah, I think it's a really good, and I appreciate the fact that you sparked a very good, healthy discussion, let me just say that, last month, and I appreciate the team really sitting down and saying, hey, this will be good for us internally. So I think, Mr. Pruski, your ideal would be to just start including this in the board update every week as we make progress, and then. If you ever have a question or anything, you can call us, or we can put it on a board item or on a board agenda.
All right. All right, next item, action items, request for board action, 2018-19, group health insurance, commitment of initial contribution of district fund balance to district group health insurance. More to it than that, but Ms. Cannon, you got this one?
Yes, good evening, President Hammond, Dr. Gibson, and members of the board. As you know, we've been considering a move to partially self-funded and studying this for the past 3 years on what we need to do for our employees' group health. We are looking at, actually Dr. Gibson and I, as mentioned, we have been to all but 3 campuses, and we've been to departments as well, talking about the different methods we could go to funding our health insurance. And one of those is to stay doing what we're doing, which is to be fully insured. The next method is to go partially self-funded, and the third method is to go TRS Active Care. The feedback that came to us was unanimously, please don't put us in the TRS Active Care. Keep trying to fight for us to get the premiums the best that you can with the best insurance program that you can offer. So that leaves us with 2 options, which is to consider the fully insured model or go to the partially self-funded. So what we would like to do is talk with you all about going ahead and going out for bid this starting probably next month for both options. Do fully insured, bid out for that, as well as bidding out for partially self-funded. Being able to study both options and see what would be the best method at that time. If a fully insured model is still the best option for our employees, we would stay fully insured. But if we feel like the partially self-funded at that time is better for our employees, we want to try to entertain that route. So we would, of course, be bringing back those proposals to you all for approval as far as the group health goes. But then we would also like you to consider that startup money for the first 2 months of operating to help us get started with the program. So tonight we're not asking you to for us to do a budget amendment to approve the money being moved over this time, because if we stay fully insured, we wouldn't want to do that. But should we, after the proposals, determine that the best route for us to go is the partially self-funded, we would want to have a commitment that we can get that going with some startup money from the district, from the fund balance. And so tonight, just in looking at that, we're asking to see what that commitment would look like if we feel like after the proposals, if a partially self-funded model is the best route to go, would we have the opportunity to start that up with some money from our fund balance?
Just got a few general questions first. Are we legally mandated by law to provide some form of health insurance?
Yes, we are.
I mean, so that is not an option in the sense.
That is not an option.
Okay. Given the fact that we have a legal duty to offer it or provide it, you're telling us we have 3 options. It sounds to me like fully funded, which is what we're currently doing, some partially funded, self-funded program, or TRS Active Care.
That's correct.
Those are our 3 options.
Those are our 3 options.
There's not a 4th best, perfect, let's pick that one option, right?
No, sir.
Okay. When you say that, I think you use the words don't or whatnot as far as TRS Active Care, I mean, who's telling you that they don't want TRS Active Care?
Our employees. We have been to all but 3 campuses in every department. I've also met with staff advisories at each of the campuses or in that process. And after you kind of explain the TRS Active Care, there's 2 issues that they're concerned about. One is that once you're in, and we would have no control over our premiums anymore. We would be just stuck with whatever the state plan is. And the other option that they're concerned about with that is the fact that you no longer would we be able to help them with the customer service piece. It's an 800 number you'd be calling. So there's also the third issue with that is the copay plan on the TRS Active Care is very expensive and maybe about $2,700 more a month or a year for our employees that need a copay plan. And those are employees that have maybe a chronic condition or something that they are going to the doctor or medications that are very expensive, and it's better for them to be on a copay plan.
Okay, so you guys are putting yourselves out there saying that is fairly clear that's not something our employees want. I mean, you're pretty confident with that?
I am very confident that that is not something our employees want.
Does anybody disagree with that? Okay.
Well, we've actually asked it that way as we've been in faculty, just the way you asked it. And
I'm part of that program, not Active Care, but I do have TRS Care Fortunately, I am also retired and have Medicare, so my plan's a little bit better than, the active care is terrible.
Okay, so.
Well, and
It's very expensive.
I'm on the board, so I'm not going to say it's terrible.
Well,
however,
cost-wise,
okay,
I'm talking about
okay.
Better than it would've been, right?
cost-wise.
But
It
it's
is very high.
It is, and I will say this: I don't.
I'm not on the board, so I can say
Okay,
this.
all right. So I'm going to counter that a little bit. So I don't have a strong feeling that it will get better. I think it's
don't
going to
either.
struggle just like everybody else is. I don't foresee something in the next year that some big thing's going to happen, and all of a sudden that becomes better than anything else out there. I hope it does, but I don't see that happening.
Okay, so.
I'll tell you, the TRS care for what I have, which is the Advantage care with Medicare, is fantastic. It is fantastic.
Okay,
A lot
so.
better than I thought it was going to be.
Not to make this overly simplified, but love, elimination, we're down to 2 choices.
Correct.
And again, there is no do something and it's a perfect choice. I mean, we're down to these 2 choices.
That's
all right?
correct.
We're currently doing the fully funding, and whether it's the sole reason for their dissatisfaction, it seems to be we have a high level of dissatisfaction with what we currently are doing, or frustration, or they're just not happy with it for whatever reason. But.
And the premiums increase every year, and the market on that is, we have to renegotiate the rates every single year on a fully insured model. We go out for bid every 2 to 3 years, but the market trend is about a 10% increase on a fully insured model. So when we get it below 10%, we're doing great, but that's not great for our employees because every year they're seeing an increase in their premiums. And for some of our employees, the amount of the raise that they get pretty much goes to their health insurance costs, or in the raising the premiums. So it's very difficult for them, and they're very dissatisfied I believe, for that reason.
Okay, so if everybody were happy right now, we wouldn't be looking at, let's think of some other option. I mean, for the most part.
I would agree with that.
You know, again, it's always open to looking at. So right now, we're just in the process of evaluating option A, option B, ultimately get all the facts on the table, and then we're looking at a March timeframe of, at that point, making a decision which way to go. I mean, that kind of what we're
Yeah,
talking
and
about.
I like the idea of putting them both out for bid, and so, I mean, both of those methodologies. I think that's good, because then we get a true side by side.
We'll be able to, so between now and then, who is actually going to vet that and take a look at the 2 options and the 2 proposals, and who all is going to make that decision?
Our consultant will be, they'll handle the getting all the docs ready, then we'll execute that through Matt. And then the first round of feedback, the good part of a neutral third party, I guess, negotiator is that, they always say, we're going to go make them sharpen their pencils, but so we've got this neutral.
Best and final offer. And
yeah, we're going to get our best and final offer. So they start really working that negotiation hard, and then it comes back to
us.
Myself and Ms. Cannon and our executive leadership team, and we'll analyze it with our consultants, and then that's when we'll give side-by-sides for the board to look at.
And does it get run back through some kind of staff or teacher committee or whatnot? I mean, feedback from the staff?
When we did the proposals this last time, for when we moved to United Healthcare, we did include staff we brought in the companies and had them share their proposals with us, and we actually brought in some staff members at that time as well.
And I guess likewise, if there was something in it that was a decision point that we had to make that really, had a direct impact on them, we would bring them in to help us advise on that decision point primarily.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and again, it's one of these 2 choices. It's not fantasy land of third choice. I mean, it's one of these 2 choices.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
What, Ms.
Yeah.
Cannon, did the staff members receive a copy of this?
They're going to.
Okay.
Those questions came actually from our staff visit at campuses.
Right.
And then with the help of our insurance consultants, the answers were provided, and that's our next step is to send that out to all the principals to share with their staff members.
Good deal, thank you.
All right, any questions? All right, and again, and I talked to Dr. Gibson about this today. I mean, we've got extra cash set aside. You know, we learned tonight that our fund balance is almost twice what it should be. I shouldn't say should be, but just
Well, twice what it would
just-
minimally need to be.
Yeah.
Right, I mean,
We're fairly safe in our fund balance is one way of putting it.
137 days of operation.
So we're being asked in some sense tonight to cordon off 1.5 million of that to potentially use it for this self-funded insurance if and when we then ultimately make the decision to do it. If we don't make the decision to do that, then we just take that wrapper off that 1.5 million and go on about our day, I take it, right?
Yeah, and it actually is just a board motion tonight, nothing, until you would approve a budget amendment, there's no even, there's no accounting transaction at all.
Designation of the money, yeah.
It's just a designation. It just kind of gives us some know-how, I guess, before we start moving into
How to
the.
proceed with the
Somewhat permission by this board
solicitation.
that, in good faith, to at least move forward with the evaluation process.
Right, and the structure that we might put forth on the bid as well, because we
Correct.
know what you all have kind of said, that, you know, we're okay with helping with seed money on this.
Okay. So I would say, you know, again, if the board does approve this, then part of this is the communication, just making sure that our staff understands what's taking place and that we're evaluating one of two options, and we're going to fully vet this. We're trying to do what's best for them. You don't have a third option. I mean, it's one of these two. And we're going to try to make the best decision we can after evaluating all the factors, right? I mean, that's what we're ultimately trying to do. So I just want to make sure that staff understands what we're doing as well. So.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions or comments from anyone? Well, go for it. Okay. You get the motion?
I'm waiting for the motion for my question.
You can do a motion. Do we have a motion on this item?
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees commit to an initial contribution of 2 months operating costs, approximately 1.5 million, pending formal action by the board to move to partially self-funded group health insurance for SY 2018-2019. The anticipated date for board action on SY 2018-2019 group health insurance is March 2018, following review of proposals for both fully insured and partially self-insured products.
Do you, if I may, this is very uncommon, would it be okay to insert the word 2 months operating costs and then parentheses for health insurance? Because after reading it 15 times, I just read that as, I'm afraid someone would be confused that that's 2 months of operating costs for the district.
Oh, okay.
And that's about 2 minutes of operating costs for the district. So just, I might recommend amendment to the motion to just narrow that to 2 months operating cost, parentheses, health insurance program.
Well, let's do it this way. Motion's on the table. Mr. Perkins, do you have any issue with how he restated your motion?
I would state it 2 months health insurance operating cost.
Okay. Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right. Now that we have a motion and a second, Mr. Wilson.
I heard some feedback on it, just like what I think I asked the question was when the guy was here talking about the insurance was, if there's a savings, you know, I realize it's an escrow account basically is what it is, okay? But I did hear some feedback from some of the staff members when you guys had gone out and did your presentation and stuff like that, and that was one of the things that they asked me was, on the circular that you guys sent out, they had said there was a comment that somebody said, you know, that if there's any money or there was savings, you know, just like I said, somebody's going to be asking these questions. What do they do with the savings? Okay, and I'm reading through the document here that you gave us. It said, you know, we're not going to. Let's see here. It says here, while there may be no rebates for good years, there also not be bills spent for the bad years. I just don't know if that's the right message that we send to people. You know, again, this is their money that they're contributing into for their health care. You know, so I think it's just something that they need to know. They need to understand. They're looking for. We're all looking for a better deal. Okay, and is this going to ultimately be a better deal for them? And that's what they're concerned about.
Sure.
That's why we get a 19% rating or whatever on our benefits. They just don't know, okay?
And that one specific question had to do with rebates, and we just actually got a rebate on our HMO product. So if they were on the HMO plan, some of our staff members received about $10 back in their paychecks.
Understand.
And so that's why it was worded that way, but I can certainly look at the wording on
Yeah,
that.
I don't know what, I don't think that's what the circular you guys, or the document you guys gave out to the staff, it said anything about that. It was just a line item that said, you know, if we save money, we're not gonna give it back to you. And that's what I asked that gentleman here the other day. We save $1 million. What are we doing to get our 19% up with our employees saying, hey, we saved $1 million. We know we got to keep some of it back, but we're going to lower the premium next year because we saved some money, because of your hard work of trying to not make claims or something. Okay.
Correct.
So if you, so what I would like everybody in this room that has spent over 100 clock hours in the last 90 days working on this to stand up. Everybody.
Don't be shy.
Okay. And why are you doing that?
Because it's right for our employees.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
It's
That's,
right for
thank
our
you.
employees. I mean,
Yeah.
we can continue down the fully insured path.
No.
But it's going to be an
Linda,
increase every
yeah, Linda,
year,
that's not
so-
what I'm advocating.
Yeah, and I just want to
You know?
make sure that's clear to everyone in the room.
Yeah, that I'm
Okay.
not advocating.
I know, I
change
just
it,
wanna-
you know, I'm just
yes.
saying, you know, when you save people money, try to pass it along, okay? The other thing is
Certainly,
that,
yeah.
and, you know, it's just something I have to say, you know, is that if we're gonna save money, that's what gets our 19% up, to try to save everybody, people in this room money, okay? The other thing is that we're voting tonight to put seed money in, right? Okay, so, I mean, that's kind of what, the way it was read basically, is that we want to put some seed money in thing to get the thing started. It has to come from somewhere, okay? So as an investor, am I getting that money back eventually? That 2.5 or whatever we're
Well,
gonna put
this
in?
comes back, it's 1.5, and it comes back to your first question, because I'm going to go ahead and say it, even though our consultants are saying don't say it. If this thing performs well, the whole point is to reduce the premiums for our employees.
Right.
There's no other reason for it. So if
That's
1.5 is what we need to have, then 1.5 is what we'll have. It won't have 1.6, it won't have 1.4. If it's supposed to have 1.5, it'll have 1.5. So if we make more than that, and I'm just picking that number arbitrarily.
Right.
But right now, that's the recommendation to us of good seed money. So, Mr. Wilson, and it's a great question, and I appreciate it. We would just keep in there what we're supposed to keep in there, and then we would return it back to the employees. That's the whole point.
Okay. Well, I'm just, again, you know, if you give somebody, you're a bank. That's why I'm looking at it.
Right.
Our general fund is a bank. We're getting ready to loan this other entity, this health insurance, $1.5 million.
Right.
Am I ever going to get that money back to my general fund? Am I going to get interest back to my general fund? Or are we just going to be a nonprofit organization just loaning somebody money and
Yeah,
not
it's
getting
more,
it back?
I would view it more
I'm
as
just
an
curious
investment.
about that.
Yeah, I think I would view it more as an investment to the staff so that
Okay.
they could exercise potential savings faster.
Okay, then that's
Yeah.
then that's a good investment. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? I just need to understand if we're given money, are we ever going to get it back? If we're not, then it's going to be sitting in this fund over here as an investment to lower people's premiums or to help
Yes.
that process.
Yeah, and so 27 years ago, the district set that 5.8 million aside, this line 1 on the fund balance chart for some reason that we still don't know, and there it sits. I would rather have 1.5 helping our staff than 5.8 sitting there for 27 years that we don't even know why it got designated there in the first place.
Okay, thank you.
So again, just to reiterate, tonight, we're not spending any money. I mean, we're not tying any money up that we can't then use for some other reason. I guess in some sense, tonight's decision is really just a good faith. We're at least taking a step towards putting you guys in a position to go down this path if we ultimately choose to do so.
Yes.
Right? But as far as underlying insurance goes, I'm going to assume just like regular insurance, if all of a sudden our employees just go on a ridiculous health kick and we have a grotesque fall off in healthcare costs, somehow, some way or another, that comes back to benefit them in the district, right? I mean, that's just the way insurance works. And
That's correct.
you reevaluate the numbers every year, and all of a sudden we don't have as many healthcare needs or costs, and that's going to be readjusted into the premium moving forward, I would think.
Yes.
Absolutely. And right now, when and if we do that, it becomes more profit for the company.
That's correct, yes.
Right, like okay, you may have missed it, Mr. Wilson, but how much did United Healthcare make off of us, excess funds that they kept last year?
Of the premiums that came in, our claims are at 75%. That's like a 3-year average, so
Right.
about 75%. So you can say that 25% then goes to the companies. Now, some of that might be for overhead of administration of the program, but 25% of that was not needed to pay our claims.
Yeah, that's what, 1.5 million or something?
It's
rough-
about,
it was like
about a little over,
1.2 million, something
about
like that.
1.2.
Okay.
Mhm.
Does that make sense, Mark?
No, I was here for
Yeah,
that.
okay,
But then
okay.
again, when again, you look at that, the administration fees that he was talking about, it ate every bit of that savings, that guy was talking about that night. And I asked him about that. And then it goes back to, if it's a $1.5 million savings, again, does it just stay in that account? Can Congress over here and this board take that money and move it out and move it into someplace else? Well, I mean, they rob Medicare all the time. If there's $5 million over there in that account now, what are you going to do when we build it up to $5 million? The employees need to understand that. They really, truly do. They just need to understand, and that's all I'm advocating is that they get a good understanding.
Sure.
Not against the program, just that they get a good understanding. At some point in time, if there's a threshold of too much money in there, what is going to become with that fund
Okay.
balance?
So I'm going to talk to our consultant tomorrow about adding a question on our FAQ that says that what will happen, the question Mr. Wilson's asking, and then our response is going to be, we will hold in there what our advisors advise us to hold in, and the whole purpose of this is to return all remaining dollars to our employees that are participating in the health insurance program.
Yeah, that there
In the
goes a
form of
long
lower
way.
Yeah, and I think, and we're gonna,
That's awesome.
we're gonna bounce that around with them, and I get that they don't want, they're extra cautious for us, and they say you don't wanna make promises, that
Yeah,
you-
right.
But
right.
that is the whole purpose of doing this. I mean, why would we be
is.
going through all this work if we weren't trying to return money? So it's fair enough, I hear what you're saying. We need to make sure it's very clear.
Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, communication issues.
I think it may be important to note that there really isn't any savings in healthcare in the United States. It's cost avoidance. So we don't lead in like we're all going to save money. We're all going to avoid costs that others are paying
Right.
because they're not doing that.
And if we can get that 19 to 25%, we'll be thrilled, because that's about as high as it gets for anybody.
All right, any further questions on this one? All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign? Okay, so motion passes 6-1. Wait, get those numbers right? We're good? Okay. All right, that passes 6-1. All right, next item on the agenda. All right, request for board approval, new positions for school year 17-18. Ms. Cannon.
Yes, due to the increase in the number of our requests for special ed testing and more students qualifying for the program's services, we have a need currently for additional staff members. We have also had students moving into our district that are needing numbers of minutes required by their individual education plans. And also with our military community, I think we're known for offering services to special education students that will help them with their families with their needs. Therefore, after evaluation the last couple months with our students and their needs, we were asking for additional paraprofessional positions to work with our special education students at various campuses.
Okay. We have a motion on this item first.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees approve the attached new position list for 2017-2018 school year.
Second.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. All right, now any questions or discussion?
Hey, to clarify, because I know at the
Sure.
beginning of the school year, we approve so many positions that aren't filled, and we fill them throughout the year as needed. Are these coming from that fund, or are these in addition to?
The ones that we currently have are the teacher positions, and since these are paraprofessional positions, we're bringing those forward, and we wouldn't be filling those teacher positions at this time. it would be the paraprofessional positions.
So they are different, but we don't, our goal right now is to not fill the ones that you've already pre-authorized, which would offset this
That's
cost,
correct.
and then another $750,000.
Correct.
But
yeah.
it explicitly wasn't those positions.
So the money, hopefully, will just come out of the money that we'd already pre-authorized for those other positions?
Yes.
And I don't see us where we are with student enrollment right now going to those 10 positions. And there's been a lot of flexibility with staff, moving some staff around and all, and we appreciate that greatly because that offset's going to help us with, growing not quite as much as we thought we were going to grow.
Yep.
Mentioned here about the influx of special education students. Are these new students moving to the district, or students that are here that we are just now redesignating as special education?
There's probably a little bit of both, but
Combination of both,
we
yeah.
do definitely have an influx of moving into our district specifically, with the idea that we do a good job, and so we want, they want to move here because of special education services.
Are any of these partially federally funded at all, or is this completely out of local dollars?
Well, the way this works is that we get Paige, how does this work?
This is all local dollars. All of our federal money is tied up in other positions.
Okay.
So this comes out of the HR more budget, not special ed budget, basically.
Just the general fund.
Just general fund.
Yes.
All right. Any further questions or comments?
This will kind of meet the needs on how many minutes required, but it's all paras. And do we already have them designated where they're going? I mean, we already know what campuses that need these right now?
Yes, we already know where the needs are.
Gotcha.
All right, seeing no further questions or comments, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, sorry. Any opposed, same sign? All right, the motion passes 6-1. Next item, request for board approval, budget amendment number 3, debt service budget. Ms. Maloney.
Yes, President Inman, Dr. Gibson, members of the board. This is a budget amendment to account for the selling of the remaining $50 million on the 2016 bond. It's an accounting transaction for our debt service payment. A reminder that we are going to be using some of the capital proceeds, I've got a cold. The interest from those proceeds to help make our debt service payment this school year. So this is just an accounting entry based on the sale of those bonds.
All right, do we have a motion on this item?
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees approve the budget amendment number 3, debt service budget as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Anybody? Okay. All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Next item, request for board action, casting of votes, election of Bexar County Appraisal District Board of Directors. Dr. Gibson.
Yeah, thank you, President Inman and trustees, and we'll take the next two kind of together collectively. Yeah, thank you. And so both elections, to my knowledge, and we've validated this with the executive directors, our votes don't really count much. And for two completely different reasons. One is that we really can't sway anything in Bexar County. Now, I think it's really important, and I know several of you already know this, that if you do not vote, at least one vote for any candidate, then if there ever is a recall of that candidate, you cannot participate in the recall of that candidate because you never cast a vote for that person in the first place. So let's Bexar County first. We have very few votes spread out over a lot of people, so it doesn't really do much. Guadalupe County second, we have 5 candidates running for 5 positions. And so everybody's in as long as everybody gets one vote. And so, there's a couple of ways to look at that. You could give our board candidate, a large amount and then divide the rest out over the 4. I feel quite comfortable after talking today to the appraisal district that you can just divide it by 5 if you want to on Guadalupe County. They're all 5 in if they get one vote. So I did both of them together here. Do you want to go back to Bexar County now and do that first?
Yeah, how many votes do we get in Bexar County again? Okay.
We get 13 votes in Bexar County. And
Yeah.
there are 13 people running.
And so I would recommend giving each one vote so that if we ever had to recall, we could participate in the recall. So it could at least be in a unanimous decision, even though we don't carry it.
How many people get a spot? It's not 13, right? how many actually get on the board?
That's a good question. Didi, do you remember in Bear County how many are on the board? Let me look at it real quick. We drilled deep in Guadalupe County because that was a lot, but then we didn't really.
Oh, we have 12 votes. 12 votes in Bear
I don't
County.
think it said, that's
Not
I don't
15.
think it says either, and so we did not call to confirm that because we were trying to get on the phone with
Yeah.
Guadalupe County.
why. All right.
So we have 12 votes and there are 13 people
Let
on
me,
this
let
ballot.
me have 13 votes.
We have 13 votes.
13
It
votes.
says here 12. It says Church Cibolo University has a total of 12 available votes.
That may be a misprint on that.
Down here it says 13, but in the background information it says 12.
Their document shows 13, so I
Okay.
will go with
Well,
their.
we'll give one each then. All right. Okay, all right. Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees vote by resolution and submit the official ballot to the elect Board of Directors for Bear County Appraisal District for 2017, 2019 as follows. I would indicate one vote per candidate on page 125.
Second.
All right, motion second. Any further questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Okay, so for Guadalupe County.
We have 1,476 votes, so easily the most votes of anyone on here. But again, you have 5 candidates and 5 positions. Mr. Wilson, do you?
Into 5,
It's on- it's on-
2,
it's on.
10.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to 47,
Well,
9.
would any of those candidates like to speak on his or her own behalf? Mr. Carew?
I'd like to talk on
295.
John's behalf.
Okay.
I'm his
295.
campaign manager for
Yeah.
We'd
this.
like to hear straight from the candidate himself.
I'd like to introduce the candidate.
Anything?
Appreciate your support.
So,
I think he's just glad to be off.
Well, if I feel comfortable, and normally we try to secure one and then even influence another one, but I feel comfortable with just dividing 1476 by 5 and giving that equal amount across the
295,
board.
and he would get the
that
extra.
leaves one extra then, if my math is correct. So
Give it to John
Mr.
Carew.
Carew, so we'll
Yeah.
give him that one extra point. Is it
I think that's fair.
fair enough?
He'll get 296.
We're gonna give you one more than all the other 4. There we go. I guess. Anybody have a motion on this?
Let the math person.
We just calculated it. It was 295. Mhm.
All right, Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees vote by resolution and submit the official ballot to elect Board of Directors for the Guadalupe Appraisal District for 2018 through 2019 as follows. Mr. Ben Amador, 295 votes. Mr. John Carew, John C. Carew, 296 votes. Mr. Darren Dunn, 295 votes. Dr. Greg Gilchrist, 295 votes. And Mr. Darrell John, 295 votes.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes unanimously, 7-0. No need for board recess, I take it?
Yeah, do you want Ms. Cannon to distribute that?
Yeah,
Let
I was
everybody
saying,
look at it real?
Any reason to go into closed session for personnel?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now the trustees have had an opportunity to take a look at this. Does anyone perceive any reason to go into closed session? Ask any detailed questions. Again, you can ask questions as long as we're not identifying any individual or whatnot. All right, so we remain in open session, discussion pertaining to the employment of contractual personnel. Ms. Cannon, anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, we have the motion on page 130, if anybody would like to read that out.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees approve the employment list as presented of contractual personnel for the 2017-2018 school year.
I second.
All right, motion and second. Any further discussion? Nope. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. All right, this time we'll close things up. Dee Dee, anything on the calendar over the next month or so?
We have a working agenda for December. I know
Peterson?
I'm not Dee Dee, but I'm going to take over. And I'm glad I'm not Dee Dee. And she's glad, she's glad, she's glad I'm not Dee Dee.
We're all glad you're not Dee Dee, this is for the record. Yes, sir. Mr. Pivito.
I'm trying to figure out who I am over here anyway. Okay, anyway.
You're on.
Working agenda recognition items, we have Ms. Goldhorn, student representatives, K-8 pledge. Che, student representative, high school reps. Gracia has student achievement. Ms. Wood has, Dr. Wood has Schertz City Council members. Mr. Inman is recognition of outgoing board member Mark Wilson. I don't see the need for that. Guy was only on the board for, what, 8.5 years, Mark?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I think,
No, report, discussion items, Dr.
I was just for everybody's sake, so Mark Wilson obviously chose not to run again for re-election. He's put in 8 years of volunteer time for the school district. We'll do the bigger send-off in December. You're gonna be here, Mark? You got it on your pinned in? I think traditionally, we've started the tradition of, I guess, providing or donating a rocking chair to trustees who are going off the board. We gave one to Mr. Finley a couple years ago. We're gonna have to ask for that one to be returned.
Yeah, don't buy coffee at Starbucks.
Or you can just pencil through it and put Mark Wilson where your name is, and I'm sure that'll be just fine. Is this a collection? Yeah, just okay. So we'll definitely do a send off and give Mark his. How long do you want your speech to be?
I was hoping they would get more than the 7 minutes, everybody.
There, 5 minutes. There we go. Okay.
You can believe that
All
yellow
right.
flag's coming up quick.
So we'll do that in December as well. So, all right. I'm sorry, Mr. Pivito.
It's okay. I was interrupted, but that's okay. Report discussion items. Dr. Pruski's going to give us a construction update. Dr. Gibson's got board member advocacy. Dr. Gibson, consensus on items eligible for consent agenda. Dr. Gibson, you're going to be busy. 2018 to 2022 strategic plan. Edwards Tapper, board president, status of CEC for board members. Dr. Gibson, review of process, superintendent summit to evaluation board effectiveness audit. Dr. Edwards, 2018-2019 school calendar. Dr. Maloney, annual fiscal audit. And Dr. Pettis, rezoning demographer attends. You're all doctors now.
And we're PhDs.
Everybody's got
Wow.
PhDs. Action items, we have the usual action items, and then those that we discussed tonight concerning the acceptance of report on budget purchases over excess of 50,000, GVC easement for Old Wiederstein Road, Ray Corbett Drive easement, City of Schertz, Ray Corbett Drive easement, CPS, and Mr. Rivera and Mr. Light, or Dr. Light, solicitation, Dr. Rivera, Dr. Light, solicitation of high school color guard consulting services. And action items other, annual fiscal audit by Dr. Maloney, and board vote, intention to vote on adoption proposed DOI plan, Dr. Edwards, and action items, employment of contractual personnel by Dr. Cannon. So there we go. So we're all good. Thank you, Dr.
All right.
Edstrom, for handing me
There we
this.
go. Just a few other things. I forget the dates, but when are we doing the photographs for the Christmas thing or holiday card?
Be on the December 5th meeting.
Okay.
Then I'd like to take a board portrait if that would work on the December 19th meeting.
Okay.
Maybe request a coat and tie or
Right.
something nice to that effect.
Okay.
It's a 2-year, it's a photograph that we use for 2 years.
Sure. Okay. Sure. So Thursday night.
This Thursday, the 16th at 6 o'clock, we will be canvassing votes from the November 7th election. We have December 5th, the board workshop, and we will have an action item on there for the board to organize at that time. And then the December 19th regular board meeting.
Did you want to do the swearing in on the 5th?
On Thursday, any elected official who was elected in November, on November 7th, will be sworn in on Thursday.
Okay, and then just
Officially sworn
heads
in.
up, that's officially, and then Mr. Finley, since you're here, I appreciate, at the December board meeting, we're going to do a ceremonial one when everybody's all gussied up for the photos and all that.
Okay. And if we gotten, for the winter governance for TASB, I know it's moved to Galveston now in February or March. Have we got anything on that?
Yeah, it's in the mail.
Oh, it is in
The
packets
winter
up there?
governance
Okay.
conference.
There you go.
Did you
All
get
right, so
that?
we do have that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, again, I know that's moved to Galveston instead of Corpus Christi. All right, anything further?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Mr. Crew.
I have 4 things.
Fourth?
We waited. On the next board meeting, I would request that we have an executive session, a conversation on just security of the actual meetings.
All right. All right.
And then the other 3 can just be in board updates, if I could get those. One is, what is the current requirement and I guess definitions of the chords for graduation? I know I brought this up once last year, but if we can just kind of get a overview of who determines, what ones are authorized, what ones aren't, what are the criteria, just something in a board update. Second, and I noticed it was in the paperwork from the Alamo Community College District, that it had that one block that says that in our board policy it doesn't talk about sexual preference. Is that something that we need to look at?
That's up to the board. If you want that to be on an agenda, you can ask for it to be on an agenda.
Okay, I'll hold off on that one for now.
Okay.
I'll have a conversation.
Okay.
And then the last one is, based on the conversation we had tonight about the money for the choreograph for the color guard, just in the weekly board update, can I get an update on how much we're spending for the dance team, for the color guard currently, and for the band, just in the choreograph fees?
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Are there any other groups that get some kind of funding for choreography? So we got band, dance team, cheerleading. You want those in there too, John? Just to
Sure.
comparison's sake or whatnot? Okay. All right.
Just so I can get a kind of a
Yeah.
benchmark of what we're paying for the other ones.
Sure. All right. Anything else, trustees? Yes, sir.
Tri-county elected officials
Oh, that's
meeting.
right, yeah. Did everybody get the invitation for tomorrow night at Olympia Hills Golf Resort? There's a reception for elected officials, food and drinks and whatnot. So, okay. Yes, sir. Mr. Perkins.
Communities and Schools Campus Chat in December is at Clemens High School, so it's from 11:30 to 12:30. Great opportunity if you haven't been to learn more about communities and schools and hear from the students that go through it.
What day?
December 7th.
All right. Okay, everybody good? All right, with that, we're adjourned at 8:56. Unless you have something else, Linda? You good? Okay.